salary ordinance. David, I believe that was advertised on the website, I believe.
It was.
Go ahead. Is there
Well,
anything we need to?
Basically, this is an annual thing for the board. They are required to hold a public hearing as they set their salaries. If you go actually to item 21 of the packet, that has the resolution. There are no proposed changes. Just to discount what a lot of people believe, you guys do not get rich by working here.
Sure.
The salary of a board of supervisor is $5,500 annually. The vice chair gets $6,700 annually, and which includes the 55. That's not in addition to. And the chairman is at $7,300 annually. So those have been unchanged for several years, but this is just to receive any comment about that, that there are no changes, and there have not been any changes for several years.
David, I run my time today. I'm up to about $3.75 an hour right now. So.
It will actually go down as you go forward. So.
The floor is now open for public comments, and we believe this public hearing open for a couple of minutes. But if anybody would like to make a public comment,
Yeah, telephone.
or we do the telephonic. Colin, can you give me the number again? I always forget it.
333-0357.
And if you would like to telephonically phone in your public remark, it's 333-0357, 276-333-0357 for a telephonic comment if you'd like to do so that way.
Here, don't nobody here want us to get a raise. No.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, ma'am.
No motion for no public comment. I make a motion to close public
We have a motion to adjourn the public hearing, the public comment portion of the public hearing. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye also. Do I hear a motion to adjourn the public hearing?
I'll make a motion to adjourn the
Do I
public.
hear a second?
I'll second it.
Motion by Mr. Peters, second by Ms. Kaiser. All those in favor of adjourning the public hearing portion of tonight's meeting, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye as well. The public hearing will be adjourned. We'll start a regular meeting in about 5 minutes. I'm good. order. We'll note that all members are present, along with Mr. Miller, the county administrator, and Mr. Phillips, county attorney, and Mrs. Lyle, the county clerk. At this point, I will open the meeting with a word of prayer. Please, we'll all turn our hearts to prayer. Heavenly Father, we come as we know how. We ask you for wisdom and guidance as we work through the county business and the agenda tonight. I ask a special blessing on each elected member of this body, each servant of this body, and each citizen of Dickinson County, and each family of Dickinson County. And I hope that all things that we do, although may not be perfect, but are in some way pleasing to you. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
John, before we move on, could I, and while we stand, I'd like to ask for a moment of prayer, a silent prayer for Steve Blankenbeckler. He was the guy who was president of Virginia Kentucky Communications. He has worked with us for a long time on a lot of projects. He's a big regional guy as far as helping all of us with our 911 systems and stuff. He was in a tragic car accident in Lebanon last night and lost his life. And he has done a lot for us, and that's going to be a huge loss for our whole area. So if we could just have, as we stand to do that, I'd like to take a moment just of silence for him and his family.
Absolutely. You want to wait a moment? Thank you, Dave.
Sure.
Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Move on to item 3, try to chop through this heavy agenda as quickly as we can. Everyone had an opportunity to review the minutes from our workshop May 7th, workshop May 11th, our public hearing May 19th, and our regular meeting May 19th. You all had the opportunity to review those minutes.
Yes, and the only thing that I see on page 27 of our regular minutes, it doesn't matter with me, but I'm sure if you go back and read it, people may not know who actually spoke
Peggy Sluss.
because it says Peggy Sluss.
So
I don't know if it was Rhonda that mentioned it or if it was me, it doesn't matter. And I don't say it because
Where's that at? I don't see it.
page 27.
Line number 5.
That's it.
Well, do you want to switch over? I'll take Joe's there.
I think it's just a scrivener's error.
Well, that's fine, it's no problem, but, you know,
How you found that's beyond me.
I read it.
Do I hear any motions in regard to the minutes?
I make a motion that we approve all 4 of the minutes with the correction that 2 were made.
Do I hear a second?
I said,
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye also. Item number 4, approval of the agenda. I think we had some suggested modifications from Mr. Phillips, Mr. Moore.
We do. We will be removing item 13. From the way I understand, we will bring that back in July. And for tonight's purposes, we will be deleting item 24, which is our closed meeting, and that also will lead to taking out item 25 and 26. And I don't have any additions or other modifications.
Is there a motion to? Go ahead, yes ma'am, go ahead.
Chairman, on 19, I had that put on and it should have been, I want to make an amendment before we vote on the budget. And Mr. Phillips told me that it doesn't even have to be on there, I can make it prior to us voting on the budget.
So we want to delete 19?
Let's delete it and then you give me the opportunity to make my amendment, okay?
All right, so we'll also delete item 19.
And I guess, David, we had, item 17 other business, we had discussed the formation of the solid waste?
Yeah, I was going to bring that up
Okay.
if we formally want to do it. Item 17A would be a request to form a committee to explore a trash collection fee,
And that's at my request.
and that was at Mr. Evans' request.
I would like to be on that.
And we will discuss that when we get there.
That's what, I wouldn't mind all of us being on it.
I think we can discuss that when we get there. That deserves some time because that's something we need to do.
Yeah.
Is there any other discussion or requests to modify or additions to the agenda? This time I'll open the floor for a motion to approve the agenda with the modifications discussed.
I'll make that motion.
Here, a second.
Second.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye also. Item number 5, county administrator's report.
In your packet, this will be, actually for the month of April. We are still, of course, June is such a heavy collection month for our treasurer's office, and we also have a lot of closing out process that we do during May and June. So we will do our best to bring May and June numbers to you at our July meeting, but this will be for the month of April. This is your current year-to-date financial summary for the fiscal year that began July 1st of 2019, ends June 30th of 2020. The general county fund year-to-date revenue are $20,604,461. Expenditures were $24,867,848. For the month of April, revenue was $1,645,923. Expenditures were $2,489,783. Local coal and gas road improvement fund year-to-date revenue is $3,208,737. Expenditures are $3,496,457. For the month of April, revenue was $335,390. Expenditures were $133,361. E911 fund year-to-date revenue is $420,046. Expenditures are $497,430. And for the month of April, revenue was $208,968, and expenditures were $58,126.
David, have you seen any stabilization in the gas revenue, or is it
Still very, very soft? And that's one of the reasons why at this point you normally would like to have seen your road improvement fund have more revenue annually than expense, but this year is going to be one of those. It's going to be really close, and that's mainly due to a lag in gas severance.
any comment or questions in regard to the county administrator report?
So thus far, if you add the month of April into this, the expenditures and the revenue and the expenditures are pretty well even.
For the road fund? Yeah.
No, I'm talking about the general county fund.
Well, general fund, you're looking at our expenditures at the end of April were $4.2 million more than our revenues.
Which is not good.
And typically that number will be at this point, that point, 2 to 3 million, so 4 is high. And that's because of the revenue sag that we've been talking about for the last 2 months.
The June collections will be added to this before.
They will.
the year.
May and June will make a big difference, but that's
That's my understanding,
that's-
she's collected quite a bit.
a long road to hoe. If we see typical May, June collections, we still show an estimate of being about $1.5 to $2 million more expense than revenue this year.
I saw Angie here a while ago.
She is over there.
On the expenditures, on the one thing I talked to you about on the check register, we'll get it straightened out.
You had said that a lot of people had paid their whole real estate taxes because of this, you thought was
I
the
feel
stimulus?
like, yeah, I feel like the stimulus money helped to get people to pay the entire year.
But thus far, it looks very good compared to last year.
Well, there's not a lot of difference in last year. Now, last year, we had one big company that paid the entire year, and they've only paid half this year. But the individual people, the majority of them, are paying the whole year, but we have had one big company that's only done half this year.
Which I was surprised that I didn't, maybe the rest of you knew, the Intervest had paid $1.5 million in taxes. Maybe you knew that, I didn't.
Yeah, I knew they paid a lot.
That's a lot.
Anything else in regards to the county administrator's report?
I make a motion that we approve his report as he gave it.
I second it.
I'll second.
Mr. Peter second, Ms. Willis made motion. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye as well. Expenditures, of course, I know you covered some of that there.
Oh, yeah, I thought we could jump to it.
Okay.
The only thing I'd mention on expenditures is there's one that I think there was a slip in the computer where it changed the name, so I'm gonna straighten that out with Cindy tomorrow. It was on a donation. It was one of my donations.
Well, I noticed that, and I was gonna ask you about it.
Yeah, I just think it picked up the wrong column or something. So we'll get that hammered out tomorrow.
Because it looked like you gave it to a church, and you can't do that. It was
Is that
Quinchco, was it
It's
Quinchco?
Quinchco Missionary
One of
Baptist
them
Church,
is.
I saw him on there too.
You can't give it to a church.
Well, then I'll have to modify that.
Yeah, you will.
Cause that,
Give it to a church.
I asked, so I'm not trying to do anything wrong.
I just work it out with Cindy in the morning.
Yeah, I'll work it out. I'll just put the other with the one that we're working on. Yeah.
I'll make a comment that I gave $800 to the robotics team at the high school, which I'm very proud of. Also, I contributed $600 to the band, which I'm very proud of them too.
Clarification, Bud, on the one that we were just talking about, I was giving it to a feeding program. Is that still the same thing? It wasn't specifically a donation to church, it was to cover,
It depends how the feeding program is set up, with what the,
it's just something they do with senior citizens
yeah,
in the community.
the way that this works in Virginia, based on Attorney General's opinion and other cases, is that the Board of Supervisors members cannot donate money to either church or sectarian agencies or entities. And so
If it's questionable, I'll just steer away from it.
what I would recommend is us talk to see if there's some other feeding or issue that you can direct your money to that might
I got something else.
accomplish the same thing.
Yeah, that's fine.
Also, David, I was given the rest that I had, which I didn't have much left, to Clinton Elementary, and I didn't notice it on the bills. And
Well, we still have another run or two of checks to do before the end of
I
June.
thought I saw it on there.
no, you didn't see that.
So just check with Cindy and make sure where it is, because we still have probably 2 more runs of checks to do before the
I'll
end.
check with you.
Yeah.
I'll get it tomorrow.
Because the 30th is next Tuesday, so we'll probably do some checks this week and do one next week.
Any other questions or comments regarding the expenditures?
If there's no other questions, I make a motion that we approve all 3, the general county, E911, and Coal Road and Guys.
Is there a second?
I second it.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye as well. Move on to item 7, road concerns. Anyone in the Willis district here with a road concern? Hearing none, I'll move on. I guess I'll start with Ms. Willis and just come this way.
Anyone in Kennedy got a road issue? Wait,
Our trees are getting to where they're falling down, especially when it's wet.
I know.
Is be not aware of that?
They are, and I told him last year, I even rode with Harmon and showed him some that needed to be trimmed, but
I can't get my, I knew I couldn't get my horse trailer off, but I cracked the windshield of my boat taking it off this past week. Because they're actually some of them that, that far out on the road and that low.
there's one right there, it's on your property, it's where Amber's driveway. If I can get them to cut that, do you care?
No.
It's leaning over a little bit.
I didn't know, I don't go up that way much, but
Yeah, it's leaning a
I'll
little
cut
bit.
that. I'll cut that. No.
And, I noticed there was a tree in the road, I think Aspen may have left it today, did you know upstairs. Did you come down?
I'm not,
Oh, it was
I'm not being
down
home.
next to, Paul Slus's. I hit it.
I'll get it, yeah.
It's on my side.
If I need to, if it helps for me to contact them or whatever, I will, whatever.
If you will, and I will also, I'll contact Carmen in the morning.
Okay.
Thank you, Clay. Anyone else in Kennedy? Thank you, Mr. Chairman, you move on.
Anybody in the Clintwood district? I think Mike Yates asked for the sign, that's been put up. Angie, is that weed still bothering you?
It's fine right now.
I've asked for two out at Foxtown for some help. I haven't received any yet. I don't know, VDOT's not much on cleaning out ditches anymore.
No, they're not. I've got one report, they're not ready.
Which causes when we have a lot of rain, a lot of flooding, washes off gravel and makes a mess. I don't know why. Okay, Mr. Chairman.
Anyone from the Sand Lake District with road issues they'd like to bring forth? I've got one that I got on the way here, potholes on Backbone Ridge.
Anyone from Irvington District? They're on our road, Dyer's Chapel Road working. They've been one place that's been, fell off for a couple of years, and everybody's saying, no supervisor getting work done.
I will move on to item number 8. One more time, is there any road concerns? All right, anybody else? Anything to say on that? Okay, we'll move on to item 8. Mr. Norman's going to appear by phone?
Yes.
Okay. I guess we want to get a report. Peggy, is there anything you want to say
This resolution, I think.
before Mr. Norman?
He's on the phone.
No, I think, our attorney, Mr. Phillips, is close to getting the deeds and stuff, if not already done, which has been a good progress to where they can, even with this COVID, they can start doing something, you know, to show the citizens in the community that we're working.
Well, I know how much you put into it, so, want to give you a chance to say, we want to let Mr. Norman have the floor. Can you hear me, Mark?
Oh, you got it.
Yes, I can hear you. I couldn't hear whoever was speaking before you, but I did hear you.
Okay, Mark, if you want to give us an update on what you need or where we are.
Yeah, I wanted to give I wanted to give a status update on the Trammell project, and specifically make you aware of a couple of issues where we'll need the Board of Supervisors to make some decisions to help us continue to make forward progress. I'm sorry?
Oh, go ahead.
Okay, so stop me if anything I'm saying is not clear. I wanted to let you all know that despite the COVID-19 limitations, we have been continuing to make progress with what we can do so as to not fall too far behind in our originally proposed project schedule. That schedule was published in the project management plan that you all adopted earlier this year. In terms of where we are now, we have officially processed all the participants whose dwellings are going to be affected by rehab or reconstruction work, and we are in the process of doing third-party verification of all the information that they've provided on their official applications. Our hope is to bid out the rehab and reconstruction work sometime in late July. Based on the work that we've done so far and our efforts to mitigate the delays and still make progress despite COVID-19, our estimate is that we're only about 4 to 6 weeks behind our originally planned schedule, which is better than I thought we would be. I think we're closer to 4 weeks than 6, but a lot's going to depend on the next 4 4 to 6 weeks in terms of us continuing to move forward. The first step for us is the removal of the blighted properties. That is 13 total properties plus the company store. The company store will be handled later because of the historic issues around it, but there are 13 other properties that we'd like to go ahead and clean up. Chris Rakes has been conducting asbestos tests for those properties. Bud Phillips has been conducting title examinations on the properties, and he tells me those should be done by the end of next week. And then Anna Mead, who is our rehab specialist, has been doing site inspections and work write-ups, and she's very close to ready to bid out the work to our list of qualified contractors. However, there are several issues, two in particular, that remain obstacles to us being able to move forward. Those two issues are, first, there are two of the blighted property owners who, despite multiple efforts via U.S. mail and email and phone calls, have remained unresponsive over the last several years that I've been trying to reach them. Jeffrey Vinson of Lot 17, which has 2 chimneys and some debris on the ground, is one of them, and Patsy Moore of Lot 225, where there is an abandoned trailer, is the other. In December of 2018, the Board of Supervisors at their regular meeting passed a resolution that I asked Teresa to make copies and hand out to you all. I'm going to quote the most relevant portion of that resolution. It's just a single-page resolution that is relevant to the situation at hand. The applicable paragraph is near the end, and it says, "Now therefore, be it resolved that if certain blighted property owners remain non-responsive or mitigation cannot proceed via an alternative and mutually agreeable solution, then Dickinson County will proceed according to Virginia Code and the Dickinson County Unsafe Structures Ordinance to remove, repair, or secure said structures pursuant to Virginia Code and the Dickinson County Unsafe Structures Ordinance for the purpose of addressing them using project funds." This resolution was passed as a precursor to us officially being approved for grant money, because the Department of Housing and Community Development wanted to know that if we had blighted property owners who continued to remain unresponsive despite our efforts, honestly, to help them at no cost to them, that the county was still had the intention of going ahead with proceedings to allow us to address those properties regardless. We are in that situation now where, unfortunately, we're ready to move forward, but I still can't get a response out of these two particular property owners. And so I am officially asking on behalf of the Trammell Project for the board to move forward with this resolution with respect to those two properties. I'm not sure from a legal standpoint, and I would defer to Bud Phillips, what exactly would need to happen, but we would like to proceed forward despite their unresponsiveness and include them in the bid packages and all of that to the contractors to do the work in the upcoming month or two. And so that's the first item. Let me cover both items, and then if we want to back up and discuss them, we can. The second item that is an obstacle to us is that 6 of the 13 properties have outstanding tax liabilities. 2 of those 6 are in collection for taxes, one that's been due since 1997 and the other that's been due since 2000. Now, what I'm not asking you to do, and why is that relevant? Well, according to a county ordinance, Chris Rakes cannot issue demolition permits or any form of building permits until all outstanding debts to the county are paid. Now, what I'm not asking you to do is to abate or otherwise relieve any of the tax liability on those properties. I believe that the liability should stand and the property owners should continue to remain fully responsible and accountable for the monies they owe for those properties. However, What we are asking is if the board would consider making an exception to the ordinance for these properties and allow Chris to issue permits, even though there is outstanding tax liability, so that we can move forward with the demolition work. This would allow us to clean them up, but it would also keep the tax burden on the property for the owners to resolve regardless. These two issues, that of the unresponsive property owners and that of the county ordinance and outstanding tax issues, are currently in the way of us being able to move forward until these two things are resolved. And so I wanted to bring them to the board's attention to ask if the board would consider taking action with respect to both of them so that we can move forward.
Hey, Mark, this is Ron Peters, and
Yes.
I'm going to point this to you and Angie. You said they're in collections. Does that mean they're actually making payments, or they're turned over to tax?
I turned them over to tax for when.
No, what it means is they've been turned over to tax.
Yeah.
In the
I
case of
understand.
one of the properties, the officially listed property owners are both deceased. It has passed intestate, meaning without a will, to an heir. It is that heir who gave us permission to go ahead and do the asbestos testing and demolish the property. But the two listed property owners have been deceased for a number of years, and that property is actually at the point where tax is ready to move forward with having an auction. However, the COVID-19 limitations have sort of delayed when that might happen. The other property is also one that it's not really in a trust, but it's an heir property as well that has a lot outstanding, and it is also in tax's hands, but there is no pending auction yet listed for that property. Now, I will say, let me also say this, so that's 2 of the 6. 3 of the other 6 all belong to one property owner, and that property owner would like to grant the properties to the project for the benefit of the Trammell community. I've had some conversations both with Angie Rakes and with David Moore with respect to those 3 properties, because they also have outstanding tax liabilities, though they're not huge, relatively speaking, but they do go back, I think, to 2013, perhaps. Let me look here. Yeah, they go back to 2013. Total liability for all 3 of those properties right now stands at somewhere around not $1,600, about $1,200 total for all 3. But that property owner is wanting to donate the properties. When I spoke with David Moore, he did not think the county wanted to be the one to take those properties. People Incorporated is open to taking over what I would consider temporary ownership of the properties, but only for the purposes of improving them and then finding, low to moderate income households that we could either sell or lease them to. Our preference would be to sell for the benefit of the community, or potentially, because they're adjacent, to turn those properties into a single property for the benefit of the community, either for some kind of economic stimulus or shared community space or something like that. And that would be sort of a phase 3 thing if we were to do that. But in order for us to move forward, step 1 is to clean up the properties. And so that's sort of what I'm asking about now. But I will say that with respect to those 3, there's likely to be a request, if the ownership of the properties changes, to abate the outstanding taxes on those properties so that we can make further, improvements for the sake of the community there. So that's probably more than you asked, but I'm trying to give you as much information as I can.
Mr. Phillips, is there anything we need to?
Mr. Chairman.
Hello?
Yes, Mr. Mormons, this is Bud Phillips speaking. First of all, we are working, when I say we, as county attorney, we've been doing the title searches on the properties for designation to be demolished. And we should have those, I don't know, by the end of the week, probably at least in 10 to 12 days, we should have all those title searches done and completed and issued. The second issue is the permit, you're talking about an issue of getting permits to demolish. It would be the county who, well, I can divide it up into two different tracks, two different issues. Number one, I would assume if you're going to demolish these properties, designated for properties, you have, those individuals have signed an agreement to demolish. They would be the individuals.
That's correct.
They would be the
We have demolition agreements from all but 2 of the properties, and those are the unresponsive owners that I mentioned earlier.
Now, the ones where people have signed to demolish, then the permit would have to be in their name, not the counties or people incorporated. They would be required to get a permit. And what I have to do is do some research and look at that to see if there is a legal way to possibly amend the ordinance, or have to...
If you could speak just a little bit closer to the speaker, I'm sorry, you're fading out on me about every few words or so. Apologize.
What I'll have to do is do research to determine whether or not the ordinance permits a waiver of that, those taxes, which I don't think it does. If not, then there may have to be an amendment to the ordinance, which it takes at least 30 days to put it on the agenda and advertise. You're talking about 60 days probably to get that done potentially.
To be clear, I'm not asking for a waiver of the taxes. I believe the tax liability should remain on the properties. What I'm asking for is an exemption or an exception, not an exemption, an exception for the purposes of these properties that we can issue a demolition permit even though there are outstanding taxes owed. So I don't want the taxes to go away. I'm not asking for abatement. I'm not asking for a waiver. I'm asking for an exception to the ordinance just so that the building permits for demolition can be issued despite the outstanding tax liability.
I don't know, Mr. Morris, if that can be done. I'll have to research to see if that's possible. And if you have any examples of that where that's ever been done, I don't have any personal knowledge or legal knowledge that that's ever been done before, but I'm open to suggestions, but we'll have to research that to see if that can be done. So I can't give you an answer today on that issue. The other issue you wish me to address is the issue of those individuals, 2 families that you have not had the ability to contact and get permission to demolish. In order to invoke the county ordinance, the county would have to file a petition with the circuit court. The circuit court would require us to give notice to the world and all the potential heirs of that property. Those notices have to run in the newspaper for several consecutive weeks. Then after that, then the court would have the jurisdiction potentially to hear the case and hear the evidence that we have and then issue an order. I suspect that's going to take at least 2 to 3 months to get that done. So it'd be my recommendation not to put those two properties in with your other 10 or 12, whatever it is, because it's going to slow you up. The court will have to go to the court, and the court will have to issue an order allowing us to go in, the county to go in, and to have the authority to demolish the property. So there has to be a court order issued giving, after we have satisfied all the legal requirements of the code, satisfy all the legal requirements of our ordinance, and then if they feel like we have, and we give notice to everyone who might be a potential heir or owner in that property, and they haven't answered, or if they contest it, then we'll have to have a hearing in front of the judge in terms of the contesting. They have a right to hire a lawyer, have a right to contest the petition. And so we'll have to file those petitions and then see where they go, but it's going to take us at least, there's no way in the world I can see illegally getting it done in short of the 3 months.
And that's fine. I assume that there would be some certain amount of legislative process that would have to happen. Again, it has never been my desire to have to sort of force our hand, if you will, with respect to these properties. and that's why I've been making every effort to reach these property owners. And again, it's just frustrating because they are really completely unresponsive. You know, despite all of my efforts, again, through different mechanisms, both snail mail, email, and phone calls, to try to help them understand that this is no cost to them and it's only going to improve the value of their property because we're going to clean up the stuff that's there. I believe, and I haven't done the, you know, legal title work, I've done sort of amateur title work, and I believe in the case of both these properties, the title issue is pretty straightforward. Both of them are owned by single individuals, so it's not an heir situation. It's not someone dying intestate with multiple heirs. It's a clear, direct chain of title. But what I am asking is, you know, is the board willing and prepared to move forward according to the resolution that was passed in December of 2018 to begin that legal process? And I will say, even if the board decides, yes, we're going to move forward, I intend to continue to make every effort to reach these property owners, because I still think the best possible situation is to secure their agreement voluntarily and not to have to pursue it through the means of a county ordinance regarding unsafe structures.
Mr. Phillips, since this is already passed, is he just looking for our gentleman's nod to say?
If you could put the phone close to whoever's speaking, I'd be grateful. I can't hear that person.
It's Mr. Evans, Mr. Mormons. I'm just trying to get to the root of the problem. I think all of us, especially Peggy, want to see this move forward. And with this being passed, I don't know what he's looking for, but whatever he's looking for, I'm happy to accomplish.
I think what he's looking for is authorization from the county administrator or the board for me to pursue those two properties in court by the ordinance.
Somebody want to make that motion?
You don't really require a motion. All you have to do is direct me to do that.
I think, yeah, I would. I think we all want to see this moving. Mr. Mormons is the definition of due diligence. I have no doubt he studies due diligence, and I'm gonna.
I'll make a motion,
Peggy, do you have
or you
anything?
can.
Well, the issue is I have to do title searches, and in fact, I finished the title search on lot 17 today. And so that one is pretty much ready to go, and I can do a title search on the other. I've got it finalized, the other piece of property. But, Mr. Chairman, you know, the legal process, the county would have to file a lawsuit, go through the legal process, and even though it may be straightforward on title, one of the things that we're required to do is give the world notice or any heirs claiming under that title, order of publication. So we'll have to do that. And then once the order of publication, the property owner has so many days to answer it, even after we file the notice of publication. And then if that doesn't happen, then we can present evidence to the court, and we'll have to. No, just, all you need to do is direct me to do it.
I think you're just emphasizing the reality, and it is going to take a little while, but I think we need to go trade on with it. It's my opinion.
Okay.
Probably so. Who picks up the cost?
That part.
The county, it's my understanding, I'd asked Mr. Mormon an email on that issue, and he indicates that by this resolution and by the agreement that you signed on travel, it would be the Board of Supervisors who has to bear the litigation and expense costs of filing the lawsuit under the ordinance, and then he would provide the funds for demolishing the properties, but you would bear that expense. You have agreed to, as a part of the project cost, to do in-kind work. And so the in-kind work would be attorney's fees and costs that you would incur to file the lawsuit.
Well, we don't have any choice.
Well, you always have a choice. It's your,
Move the project forward.
yeah, you move the project forward, you just have to direct me to do those two projects.
Is there, Mr. Mormons, can you hear me? This is Mr. Evans.
I'm not able to hear whoever's speaking right now. I could hear Bud Phillips very clearly.
The one over by.
What I've done is got the
Right here.
I've got the microphone, and you got to pull it forward to you in order to get access to the microphone.
Mr. Mormons, this is Josh Evans. I was just going to see, other than us requesting our
county administrator and Mr. Phillips to go ahead forward with the acquisition of the properties. Is there anything else you need from us?
Yes, the second item was to authorize the county attorney to likewise research whether or not the board can make an official exception to the county ordinance such that demolition permits can be issued for the remaining properties that have outstanding tax liabilities on them. And again, we're not asking for any waiver of taxes or abatement of taxes. We're simply asking for an exception to the ordinance for these properties to be demolished with project funds, despite the fact that there are still outstanding taxes on the property.
I intend to research that, Mr. Chairman, so there's no direction needed.
Yes, sir. Did you hear that, Mark?
I did. So based on whatever Mr. Phillips comes up with, my hope would be that no later than our next meeting, we could make an official decision, assuming that's legally okay to do with respect to those properties and being able to issue demolition permits.
Yes, sir. Anything else, Peggy?
No, I don't think so.
Just if you all had any questions for me, I'm happy to answer. I'm just trying to keep you in the loop of what's going on. So if you all had any outstanding questions for me, I'd be happy to answer those.
Again, I know I've done it. I appreciate your hard work and obviously the due diligence you've used, and it's very clear you're working hard for this project. So I myself appreciate it. Anybody else? Mark, we'll let you go now, if that's okay.
All right. Thank you to you all, and thank you, Bud, for your help and your work. And I look forward to reconnecting with everyone at no later than next month's meeting.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening.
Is there any other discussion on that? All right, I'll move on to item number 9. Mr. Kendrick, he's been patiently waiting. I'll let him have the floor. Mr. Kendrick, where everybody knows, member of the town council, part-time employee for the sheriff's office. Good to see you.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Mr. Phillips and Mr. Moore, I appreciate y'all giving me the opportunity to get on the agenda. I'm wearing a couple of different hats this evening, so the first thing I was wanting to talk to you about, like Mr. Evans said, I'm vice mayor with the town of Flintwood, and at our last meeting, we had discussed an issue that I know it's been on the minds of a lot of you, and I've been working with Mr. Evans on this off and on, and he has with the town council, is the issues with the trash bins that are located up there next to the tennis courts behind the old 911 office. And the conditions they get in every weekend, they become overflowing. And it's helped quite a bit whenever the county placed another trash bin up there to alleviate some of the load and keep it off the ground. But we still got quite amount of trash that's being deposited there over the weekend. I didn't know what the possibility of it was, and I spoke with Mr. Evans concerning the transfer station and the possibility of maybe opening up the transfer station on Saturdays, even for maybe half a day. You've got a lot of people that work during the week and cannot come to the transfer station during the week, and they're looking for a place to put it. And I honestly believe a lot of people that bring it up there want to do the right thing and deposit it into the trash bins and dispose of it properly. But I was just wondering if there might be even a possibility that we can give them like a free Saturday, to allow them to bring the trash. And I'm also encouraged with the idea that there's going to be a garbage fee. I think that's possibly long overdue, and I think that the county would be way ahead by doing that. I just wanted to throw that out there. But anyway, I don't know. Like I said, we've been reviewing videos and stuff, and most of the people that come up there, they try to make sure they put it in there, and they get it stacking pretty high, and eventually it does fall over. But if we could possibly give them a free Saturday, we go to their houses and pick it up for free, but they go to the transfer station, they have to pay for it, And so I just wanted to kind of throw that out there and see what y'all thought.
Chairman, can I speak? You know, we already mentioned earlier we need to sit down and address trash. I would like to see us get it to a point where we have that spelled out, how we're gonna pay for it. And I would think in that case, if you're paying for it, then it shouldn't matter if it's picked up by the trucks or you drop it off at the transfer station. Other counties do it that way.
The more to Ron's point, and I know this, I'm a town resident, and it's not me fussing, it's just how it is, but there's many county residents that utilize those dumpsters in that dumpster area. I know for a fact, because I see them there when I'm dumping, and so
You live there too?
well, I'm a town resident, I can, and I'm a town business owner. But then I pay the tax, I pay the fee. Right, Harry? That's something me and Harry finally agree on. But I think we should put a dumpster there to help them. That's my opinion.
How many is there now?
If we have
Go
them.
ahead.
Three.
Three?
Yeah.
Three town
I'd
dumpsters.
rather have them come throw it at the dumpsters, throw it over the hill.
Well, and it's a big mess. Rick, the chief for the town, they're just
I
wore out with it, and the mayor, they do a good job with our town, and I'd like to help them. And I'd like for us to at least, I feel like the least we could do is put a dumpster there.
And I'll share with you, I gave away 3 dumpsters last term because the folks got tired of it because they had people coming over from the neighboring county, the bears and everything else.
Yeah.
And they just got tired of the mess.
They do.
And
Don't put lids on dumpsters.
But I'm not opposed
No
to it.
lids on those dumpsters, right?
No.
I got a dumpster at a facility that, if you don't put lids
just
on
gotta
dumpsters, people are not going to,
And
they won't throw it around.
And I agree with what you said, and the town's stance is we would rather them bring it there and we take care of it rather than it end up over the bank somewhere, towards
I
the
do
river.
believe you need lids. Lids aren't that expensive. Sometimes, the truck stop has some extra ones. I got an extra lid for my dumpster.
Yeah.
But, it's the greatest thing. The dumpster's been the greatest thing on where I have.
Yeah.
They don't, if they got the lids, cats, dogs can't get into it, and then people have a tendency, they will put it in the dumpster. But if they put extra dumpster there, does that help?
Well, I think it'd help some, but then, they're still it's still gonna come in excessive.
Well,
What
that's
do you think?
What's been expressed to me by you and maybe Rick and the mayor is at least a dumpster would help some.
It would, yeah,
I mean,
yeah. But do you think there might be a possibility of opening up the transfer station on Saturdays, or?
That's probably a little more complicated. We have done that twice during my tenure here, and both times we kept statistics. We went through the usage. As far as scheduling went, because if we schedule to be open on Saturday, we have to keep the guys off at a different time throughout the week to keep them manned. We're open to anything to try to help you out.
I'd like to see us do that.
The Saturday thing is something that I really, before you all just blindly say yes.
I know that.
You should go back and look at the historical data on it because it does not.
Well, I was gonna ask you
It
to
does
speak
not
on it.
support being open on Saturdays.
I remember about like one Saturday a month or so.
I'd be more amenable to that because that's much more workable than every week trying to come up with a work schedule that works in order to keep it open. When we tried this, we tried this for 2 different spring summers because that's when most people would need the Saturday. We've done it twice, and I can show you all the data for it. As far as the dumpster, getting you one, I don't have an issue with it if we have availability of one. That has been our problem in the past, is availability of dumpsters that are suitable for being able to be put out there.
I talked to Eugene about this. They've got a guy that is on the work program that is a welder, so we need to just coordinate that and have the guy weld one, and let's take it up there. I mean, it's just,
Superior.
we don't even need to discuss it really, in my opinion. We need to just do it.
Fabricators, they repaired my dumpster.
Yeah.
And I would remind the board that with things that are developing in other areas that with that property, those dumpsters are probably going to have to be relocated relatively soon. I know I had spoken to I'm related to a fellow you might know on the town council. So I had mentioned it to him, and that's not, it's not like tomorrow or next week, but in the near future, we'll have to come up with a different site for that.
Yeah.
And we should be able to work together and find one.
Yeah,
Okay.
thank you. Go ahead, Ron, anything else?
All right. Next, we had discussed about the CARES Act and the hazardous duty pay for our employees, and I'm not exactly sure how that proceeds or whatever, but I know that the town is thankful to benefit with that as well. But I was going to see what the possibility. I've got 13 employees with the Clintwood Rescue. There's I think 5 full-time and the rest are part-time, and I was just going to see what the possibility of getting hazardous pay for those.
Employees are an easier issue, and with you guys and status, I have tried to find some guidance as far as like the fire rescue volunteers. I agree, frontline people who were out there throughout the entirety of that. I just don't have enough guidance on that yet. But when I'd spoken to Richie the last time, he is also checking into all of that for us.
Okay.
So I think collectively we'll come up with something for all of you guys.
Okay.
I just need to find something that clarifies a little bit when it's not an employee type situation. But we'll get there.
Okay. All right. And lastly, I've taken a part-time position with the sheriff's office, as Mr. Evans had stated, and one of those things is that the sheriff has asked me to kind of explore some grants. And so one of the things that I've been looking at under the town of Clintwood, we've been fortunate over the last several years been able to get police cars funded through the USDA with Dwight Pearson over there. So I gave him a call and I talked to him about it, and he said that the county hadn't applied for that particular grant funding in several years, and he said that they would be eligible for it. And the grant funding is actually raised again. It was at $50,000, it dropped down to $25,000, and now it's back up to $50,000 that we could apply to possibly 2 police cars. And because you can get 75% funding up to $50,000, and I just think that'd be a great opportunity for the sheriff to be able to add a couple more vehicles to his fleet. But one of the things we have to do is we have to get a resolution from the Board of Supervisors in support of this. And I brought a sample resolution for you to review. If you could just kind of look it over and maybe see if that's something that we could pursue. Whenever I talked to Dwight, he said that, the quicker we moved on it, the better, that we could actually even maybe get funded by September if we moved quick enough. So.
Yeah,
Okay.
I don't know if we can do something along the lines of a draft or I don't know how we would do it, if it's word action matter or whatever, but.
The best we can do is have him review it. We'll have it in front of you in July, because I had spoken to Jeremy about this very grant the other day. In the past, most of the grants that have been in front of us for vehicles, the counties were not eligible. Towns have always been eligible, especially under rural development. Counties were not. And of course, when this came up, I asked Jeremy, I was like, first thing, are you sure? And he said, yeah, and he said he was working with you, so that's great.
Yeah.
And anytime we can qualify for a rural development grant for a vehicle, we should be an applicant.
And does Ron?
Do you know if the county has to be the applicant or the sheriff's office?
One thing I was going to ask.
I think that's go through the county.
Okay.
It says the governing body,
Yeah.
Dickinson County.
We'll get
And I
to it.
quickly,
That's not a problem.
I quickly reviewed, Mr. Chairman, the resolution, proves the intent of it, and it does have the import of requiring you to formally approve this after you have it on your agenda. And so Mr. County Administrator is correct. It's my recommendation that the resolution go on the next month, because you need to look at it and to digest what it requires, and there's some commitment of the county, and that's why.
In the meantime, I'll speak to Dwight Pearson myself about it,
Okay.
and I'll let him know that I've spoken to both of you, and we'll just make sure we get all the paperwork right.
Okay. And if you don't have any other questions to me, then that's all I need.
We will, David, I appreciate you, but we'll try to get something going with that dumpster side. I know that's
Okay.
been an issue, but been asked about many times, so.
All right.
Thank you, Ron.
Thank you all very much.
No.
We'll move on to item number 10, the Dickinson County Board of Supervisors public comment and participation policy. Can speak. Mr. Phillips, I think you drafted this. If you want to tell us about it.
Mr. Chairman, the board has in place a public participation policy, but you've probably not seen it in a while and may not have been aware of it. But what I've done is to update it and to expand it to what its current form is. And basically what it does is set down the rules and requirements for orderly discourse of business in front of you by the public, and sets down some guidelines that the public must follow in order to participate in public input to the board during a public comment. It's not intended in any way, nor does it limit the First Amendment rights of people to speak, but it does have certain guidelines to make sure the individuals don't abuse their opportunity to speak to this board, but it sets out certain guidelines as to how those individuals would participate and what kinds of speech would not be acceptable and what kind of actions would not be acceptable in front of this board. And there is, if you decide you wish to adopt it, there is, I was proofreading it again before it came, and there's on page 2, one correction that I need to make as an amendment before and during, if you decide that you wish to adopt it.
I've read it. I think we do need to adopt it, and I would encourage the board to do so.
I'll make a motion, we adopt it.
Do you want to?
You need to make the amendment.
Right.
Yes, I do. I need to make the amendment. Look at page 2.
Yep.
Dot 4, there's 4, the campaign public officials there, the paragraph, promote private business ventures or use profanity or vulgar language. Number 4, there, it says, use language which insults or demeans any person, and take out of which and add and or when directed at a public official or employee, when not related, insert there, and it says, or employee when not related to his or her official duties. So that's the amendment. That's just a clarification and some editing that I need to do. I didn't catch it when I did the initial proofreading.
So we have a motion to adopt the public comment participation policy with said amendments. Here a second.
I'll second the motion.
Second by Ms. Lois. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye as well.
Madam Clerk, I will do the correction and provide that for Mr. Evans' signature.
Thank you. Move on to item number 11. It's public comment. So in conjunction with the policy we just passed, there's no specific order. Anyone wishing to make a public comment may step to the podium and just ask for your name and address, and you'll be limited to a 3-minute time slot. So anyone that desires to make a public,
It's not officially signed yet.
well, still kind of go by it, I guess.
3 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you please use it, Ms. Clerk.
My name is Phyllis Mullins from Clintwood, Virginia. I'm president of the Dickinson Education Association, and I don't have anything prepared. You all have seen me up here before. So what I tell you tonight comes from my heart. I've talked to several of you, and I've heard comments made that, you know, Mr. Barton said he could work with 5.9. He can. This is the result of him working with 5.9. Our insurance going up. Our aids being lost. Our, the other cuts that's being made. That's the result of 5.9. Other comments, I've heard that public people, just regular citizens, are saying that they're so proud of you for standing firm against the school board. That's fine. Stand firm against the school board. I'm asking tonight, I'm not the school board. I'm a teacher. I'm an employee. I represent my people. I'm asking for them to please find the money to save our insurance and our aides. Another thing that I've heard is, our insurance. Everybody should want our insurance. Well, to be truthful, the county actually pays less than what the school board employees do. And I know I've heard, well, $30 isn't that much. $30 is a lot. It can help pay a water bill. It can pay on an electric bill. It can put food on the table. And over a year's time, it means a lot. It's a pay cut, plain and simple. When our insurance gets raised, that means the money comes from somewhere else. We're not getting a raise. Some people will get a step. But either way, it's a pay cut. So I'm here to ask you to please find the funding to help us. Because it's not standing firm against the school board. It's standing firm against me, other people, and the people in this picture, which are our children. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to make public comment? While the next speaker's coming up, I'm going to read the phone number one more time, 276-333-0357, if you wish to telephonically make your public comment.
Harry Childers, 171 Brush Creek Road. David, to help you a little bit, if I'm not mistaken, you may want to check. I think there's a dumpster turned upside down at Rice-Nick's Grocery in Martintown. I drive by there every day. It used to get filled, and I think you all flipped it over to keep from people putting trash in and having to dump it. I don't think it belongs to the grocery, but you might check on that and see.
Well, we can check on that. That's not our practice to turn one over, but we'll see what.
I know.
But thanks.
But there was a bear in it there a few times too, so that may have been the reason.
People were overloading it, I think.
Yeah. I'm here to talk a little bit about several things. One is about the budget. Your proposed fiscal year 21 budget is only $221,755 less than the fiscal year 20 budget. 16 departments were cut $108,813. 25 departments were increased $987,058. And the education was cut $1.1 million. So you see where your budget was balanced on to do that. Had a question. There's still $33,000, a little over $33,000 in the swimming pool budget. Is the swimming pool going to be open this year, or is that money you can go get? There was an increase of $56,189 in solid waste to make that $1,251,545, which is very encouraging to hear. We're going to talk about trash fee. I've harped on that for a long time since I, like Josh, pay $7 in the town, and I have county trucks go by my house every day and go pick it up in other incorporated towns in this county from businesses for free. When I look at Walgreens now, it used to be Rite Aid that pays to have their trash picked up. So some of us in this county are paying for others to have a benefit. The largest line item in this budget is social services at $7,107,681 compared to $5.9 million for education. Now, if we want to try, what does this tell someone that wants to come in this county to locate and bring a business in this county? Where do they think our priorities are? And I think that's something we seriously need to think about. Made me think, and I tell these, I guess I got this from my dad, I tell these little stories. It reminds me of the old car engine oil. Pay me now or pay me later. And it looks like to everyone else that we don't want to pay now in the early part of someone's life, but we're willing to pay it in the later part of someone's life. I know you all got a tough budget year. For 3 of you, you never delved into this before. You've had COVID-19. You've had drops in severance taxes because of that. But as the old saying is, you ran for it, you got elected for it, and now you got to handle it. Thank you all very much.
I want to read the phone number one more time. 276-333-0357 for a telephonic public remark. And the floor is now open again for public comment.
Hello, I'm Wade Rose of the Caney Ridge section, and I'd like to tell you about how important an aide is in a classroom. When I go into the classroom here in August, I'm going to have 2 options, and it depends on how many students I have and what type of students I have. If I have 25 students and I have discipline problems, then I've got to treat my classroom different than if I have 15 students and I don't have any discipline problems. There are ways that you can manage a classroom where you can have teams set up working with each other or competing with each other. There's more formal or informal ways to teach. Having an aide in the classroom makes all the difference there. The aide to help you with your discipline, with what's going on when you turn your back and you're writing on the board, with helping those students that can't learn completely verbally or can't write very well. The aides, I would say, are the most important part of the classroom, not the teacher. And I have some experience with that before I was a teacher. My son was born autistic, and it was the efforts of the Dickinson County school system and Miss Robinson of putting him in a classroom that had only 5 students that brought him back to the classroom, that got him the confidence, that gained him the confidence to learn to be educated. And now he's doing very well, very well. We've made it 3 years now with him doing very well. But that was because of special ed, our special ed resources, and because of our aides. And when we cut our schools, those are the important ingredients that make the difference for 10 to 20% of our students that do not have the perfect skills. And that's what I came to mention today, is to keep that in mind. And also to say, I have a little different take than Phyllis on this. It infuriates me when somebody automatically takes arms against the school board. It infuriates me when somebody takes arms against you, and just automatically, as opposed to anything that you do. So I am impressed with how hard you work, and I know that you keep our students in your thoughts, and I hope that we can work this out to keep our aides. Thank you.
Do we ever do that? I don't recall doing that. Is there anyone else? Anybody calling? I'll read the number one more time. 276-333-0357. Keep it open just another moment.
Hearing no other public comment or phone calls, entertain a motion, I guess, to cease the public comment portion of the meeting.
I'll make that motion.
Here a second.
I'll second it.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. 12. Move on to item number 12.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
If it was appropriate, may I make a brief statement
Yes,
about
please.
an issue? Mr. Chairman, the county citizens and teachers in particular are probably aware there's an ongoing litigation that we believe should be dismissed, that the school board has filed against us. This board has done everything in its power to move the school forward. There is one item that we have been doing our best to attempt to get the school board to recognize that needs to be resolved, and resolved quickly. One of those issues is dealing with what is called the QSCAB account. In that account, there are several, what we believe, sources of money that is owed to the county, and some we believe is probably owed to the school board. We're doing our best to try to get them, the school board, to understand that it's in the best interest of all the citizens of this county to dismiss the lawsuit, because it's holding up progress, in my opinion, on getting the school built. But the issue here is that QSCAB account. The Dickinson County basically is owed about $6.9 million out of that account to pay off bonds that we borrowed for the Ridgeview project, the high school. That will leave approximately, if I remember, serves me right, about $1 million left in that account. Out of that account, we appropriated to the school board $250,000 to use to hire engineering firms to develop design and specs on the new elementary school. Out of that $1 million, that leaves around, out of that 1.1, that'll leave approximately probably somewhere between $750,000 to $800,000. The school board has a need for $250,000 of that money to do some what is called mitigation work that's associated, and we've agreed to give them that money out of that account. This board has. When I say we, the school board has agreed to give them that money. Based on my calculation, this board has authorized me, if school board wishes to do that tomorrow, to write checks to give $250,000 to the school board for the mitigation work. They have also authorized me by resolution to give the remaining balance, which we believe is somewhere, and I'd have to ask the county administrator, somewhere between $500,000 to $600,000 in cash to the school board. That money would be unrestricted, which means we would prefer them to use it for the elementary school, but if they want to use it for other purposes, they could. There's approximately at least $500,000 waiting to be dispersed to the school board in cash tomorrow if they're willing to do that. That would solve the school board's problems and dilemma here tonight and tomorrow. And it is unrestricted. This board, once we write the check, it goes to the school board. The school board determines how to use that money as they see fit to balance their budget or how they wish to proceed with those funds. That's their decision. We're not going to dictate that to them. When I say that this board will not dictate it. So there is money on the table tonight and tomorrow to the school board of approximately a little over $500,000 that will be, it takes three parties to sign the check. The IDA, this board, and the school board. Two parties are willing to sign the check. The third party is the school board. All they have to do is say, we agree to the disbursement of the QSCAB money, and all those monies will be dispersed. And so, as a taxpayer and a citizen, I speak that I hope that the school board is listening tonight. I hope the citizens are listening tonight. I hope teachers are listening tonight. I hope aides are listening tonight. And that there is those funds available, unrestricted, by cash, that can be given to the school board. And I see Ms. Roberts here tonight. And I'd hope they would consider that. Now, we've got a meeting tomorrow. There's a meeting tomorrow between part of the school board, Ms. Robbins and I, and the council. And as a citizen and as an attorney, I could not let this moment go by knowing that there's money that the school board can access, that they can have access to, and all they have to do is sign a check distributing 6.9 to the county. And our parties, the IDA and the Board of Supervisors, will sign the checks as well, giving $250,000 to the school board for mitigation, and $500,000 roughly or more that would be unrestricted. Now, there's time to get things done, and there's the time to argue, and the time to argue and litigate is over. I think the citizens, the taxpayers, and everybody in this county wants to see this put to an end. And they want this lawsuit to put an end. And one way to go forward tonight and tomorrow is to disperse that QSCAD money. Now, I would hope that the school board is listening. The school board can take that action, and it's perfectly legal, to give direction to the superintendent to distribute that money. And this board has given me direction. They have given me direction to go ahead by resolution to distribute that money. And I would hope it would come at a time that the school board and the school systems needs that money, and they can make the determination how to spend that money. And so I felt incumbent on me tonight to let the taxpayers, the citizens, and the school employees know that that money is there. And in my opinion, it would be a sin. It would not be right for that money to remain on the table and not give access to the school board to use to do whatever they wish. They want to balance their budget, they can. If they, to help balance their budget, if they want to keep aides on, if they want to make sure the insurance is paid, they could potentially use that for that purpose if they so desire. And it's not in any way intended tonight to be a criticism of the superintendent or in any way be a criticism of the school board. It's just me as county attorney and a citizen speaking that that issue has to be considered in order to hopefully make things work for the citizens, the school employees, and the school children of Dickinson County. And that's basically my comments, and I apologize I didn't intend to make a comment tonight, Mr. Chairman, but I felt it incumbent on me on your behalf and on behalf of citizens to make it known that that money is there.
And I'm glad you did, and I'm going to make a remark at this point too, since this door's open. You know, as a former ward of the court and a former, what you would call an at-risk child, nobody's more insulted than me to hear people throw around accusations that we somehow voted to cut aides in the classroom, or that I somehow took a vote to take resources from a classroom. I've taken it upon myself the past 2 weeks to really delve in to the Dickinson County School Board Policy Manual and the Dickinson County School Board budget. I've stumbled upon a policy piece in their manual called retirement incentives. And through asking elected officials, members of the budget makers in the Dickinson County School Board, there's 22 people that are retired in the Dickinson County, from the Dickinson County school system. 22 people that don't work, are not aides in the classroom, not helping at-risk students, not helping students with disabilities, but people that are retired at home. And you know what the taxpayers of Dickinson County pay for those 22 people? $446,000 annually. That's what's paid to 22 people of this county. Now, to say that we as a board are somehow firing teachers' aides or responsible for taking resources away from students with disabilities is disingenuous, and I don't appreciate it, and we didn't vote to do that. I didn't vote to raise teachers' insurance. $446,000 is being paid to people who aren't in the classroom. And I'll read directly from the Dickinson County Policy Manual. This is adopted by the Dickinson County School Board in the policy manual that each employee receives. The school board reserves the right to modify or terminate any retirement incentive based upon its sole discretion. There shall be no express or implied contractual right to any retirement incentive benefit. Payments under this plan will receive priority consideration at the time of budget formation and adoption. If the school board does not, in its sole discretion, receive adequate payments for this benefit from the Dickinson County Board of Supervisors, all rights and obligations of the school board and participants shall be void and no further in effect. So, we've been presented with Irvington Elementary is going to close. We're raising our teachers' insurance. We're laying off aides. While you're giving $500,000 to a retiree, nobody in the country retires from their job and gets their health insurance continued, and certainly a locality with a $25 million annual budget with coal and gas severance dropping below unheard of levels, do you pay $500,000 for retirees to have benefits? But no, we're going to close Irvington first. We're going to raise the teachers' insurance first. We're going to lay off aides for students with disabilities first, and then we're going to blame you all who never done a vote to do any of those things. So excuse me for being somewhat passionate about that, but I don't understand how we as a Board of Supervisors in good conscience and with the oath to look after the taxpayer dollar can pay $500,000 a year for 22 people. Our sheriff's deputies, they don't get to retire with that kind of benefit. Our solid waste workers, they don't get to retire with that kind of benefit. Our clerks, our county administrator, nobody in county government, nobody in the United States of America, for that matter, can retire and have 7 years worth of insurance paid on the backs of the taxpayers. So for people to come in here and accuse me and this board of wanting to take monies from children with disabilities out of the classroom, I don't appreciate it. When $500,000 is being spent on retiree health insurance. So I know the door's open. We've got a long agenda left.
Mr. Evans, can I say something?
You go ahead.
Mr. Moore,
Yes, sir.
this was the first I'd seen this policy, although I knew of it because I seen it back in 2012. But were we ever coordinated with by the school board to adopt such a policy?
Well, no, they're not required. But
And I know they're not required,
No.
but here's my take on this. You're here, and my heart bleeds with some of the requests out there. But we have to have something sustainable. The SOQ model covers 75% the state covers. In the insurance world, though, most of the monies that cover your health care insurance are local monies. And I guess how can you ethically ask me to cover that and we don't do it for our employees here in the county? I mean, I don't get it. I also wanted to reference, I'm looking at a sheet that you passed out during the department meeting, the school board did, and it shows that we're actually, for FY21, we went up $1.2 million in state funding. So, I mean, it's your sheet, not mine. So, we're not telling the school board what to do here. This is something that you need to take to the school board. They need to really do due diligence and figure out what's going on here, and they have to make that call. They're going to have to, any way you can help them understand, because your dilemma is with them. They've got to make that call.
But how do we go, my frustration is how do you go from $500,000 to retirees to blaming the Board of Supervisors for taking money out of the classroom? Who's taking money out of the classroom? I'm not. I want the money in the classroom. I want the teachers to get their raises. I want the money in the classroom. That's where it should be.
And as a region, there's at least 3 regions I've heard already, we're funding, with where we're at, we're funding higher than Russell County, and I think Lee County, and Scott, percentage-wise.
Mr. Chair.
No, ma'am, public comment's been closed.
Thank you.
I think we got a meeting tomorrow. We're going to move on to item 12, Atlantic Election Services. David, do you want to explain that?
Sure. Our registrar and electoral board, we have an annual contract for the machines that are the ones that where we conduct the elections through. This year's iteration has no increase on the majority of the costs. However, there is a small increase of $2.50 per machine for the recordation process. There are very few that can supply this type of service to us. The contract looks good to me. I assume it's been reviewed by legal counsel, so we ask for its approval.
You're good with it, Josh, because you're part of that committee.
Yes.
And I've read through it. I'll make a motion.
I guess you need a motion to approve it, David.
Yes.
Can I ask?
Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I guess it's on page 3, the 4th page in this section. It says the fee for election day shall be $90 man hour and 90 cents a mile. Is that in addition to this price on the front page? And
that's if they have to come out on.
That is, if you'll note, that's under the optional section, and that's if you have to have a technician come out on that day. During my time, we have not ever had to have a technician come out. That's fairly standard language, though.
Oh, okay.
And again, we've not had to have a technician come out during the time. Everything else in here is pretty flat as far as fees go.
I just didn't catch the topic for optional.
Right.
Okay, sorry.
No, that's good.
That's a good question. Anyway, yeah, we could have a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve it.
Here, a second.
I'll second the motion.
All those in favor of approving the contract with Atlantic Election Services, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye also.
I got ahead of myself.
We were canceled item 13. We have move on to item 14 on the agenda.
I think 14.
Yeah, we have 2 VDOT resolutions. The first one is actually for our smart scale. Our smart scale application is due on August 1st. It requires a resolution by the Board of Supervisors. The only smart scale project that we have in that process again this year is the 4-way, what we refer to as the 4-way. That's the intersection of 83 and Rose Ridge. VDOT, as an effort to try to do a better job managing that intersection, has come up with a plan where they would like possibly to explore doing a roundabout there in order to keep especially for the school traffic, mornings and afternoons are pretty tough there. But this resolution is just required in order to be submitted with our project. So I ask for its approval.
I know you've been super interested in that.
Yeah, I'm super interested in that, off that bridge and the border, and the ships come up there too, and probably all of us have really not roundabouts either.
I don't either. I agree with you
I
too.
don't like them.
Well,
We gotta do something.
I will say, we have explored flashing lights, we have explored a red light, and at the end of the day, VDOT and their current scheme says that intersection will score much better from a safety component by having a roundabout, because with the trucks that come up both sides, it's almost impossible to require them to stop. And in order to keep traffic flow going, but to kind of maintain speed, a large roundabout, it'd be much larger than the one down at the school, but that is what is deemed to be the best option for that.
Will that take part of the parking lot?
It's going to move to the other side of the road.
But I mean, this is just to try to get
Cost,
approved.
what's
This
the
ain't
cost
even
on this?
Well,
Who's
again,
gonna pay for
you're competing. There is no finality to this. This is a competitive
This
process.
is just to get in the,
This project will not score on any level matrix except for safety. The traffic count does not put it up there. I mean, we're competing with Fairfax, Richmond, Virginia Beach, Roanoke, everybody for smart scale funds. This is our only project that can qualify, and its only qualification is public safety due to the intersection being for school.
Didn't they tell us earlier, Josh, did you talk with the VDOT people that, what are they, 24 localities vying for this smart scale?
Oh, there's more. Every locality has some form of project.
Oh, okay.
That's probably Bristol District.
Okay.
And
So we got to start the process with this, right?
got to have the resolution before they'll even take your application. So we need the resolution just to start the process.
After the resolution.
I second it.
All those in favor of accepting or adopting this resolution, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye as well.
The second resolution is, we have some surplus funds on 3 old projects. It used to be that VDOT allowed me by memo or letter to transfer those funds to current projects, but that process has changed. We now have to have a resolution where we ask for the surplus funds to be returned to the county, and then we reassign them through the Coal Road Committee. Josh will remember at our last Coal Road meeting, we actually have a need for some surplus funds to be put towards some projects. So as this money gets returned, we will work with VDOT to make sure that we have adequate funding for our current project list.
David, I don't think I've got a copy of that resolution. Is it?
Oh, it's in
14D.
Oh, okay, I see it. I'm sorry.
It's $247,331.26 off of 3 old UPCs. Which
I make a motion, we approve it.
Go ahead,
Where
Ron.
does this 247,000, is this a
Goes
surplus?
back to the Coal Road and gas.
Surplus off closed
That's
old
what I
projects, they will return it
I'm
to us
sorry.
and we will reapply it to current projects.
Is there any other
Who made the
questions?
motion?
I did.
I'll second that.
Is there any further discussion on that, Rhonda? Do you have any? Ms. Wills,
Can
go
I
ahead.
ask you, how's the guardrails gonna be divided?
Guardrails.
$159,000.
That's a great question. I don't think we approved any sort of guardrail.
Actually,
last meeting.
this is just for the reversion of funds. This is not to fund a guardrail project. We had worked with them previously with $300,000 to fund guardrail. And as part of the meeting that we will have with them in August, I would like you all to, this is why I wanted the questions about the guardrails, how they will be applied. This is just for the old funding that we're getting returned that we can apply to some of our new projects.
That's good.
Route 652 runs my way.
She said Ralph Stanley Highway.
The Dr. Rouse Stanley Highway.
Yeah, and Dyer's Chapel Road is part of
Chapel,
652, as well as it goes off towards Ron's, down towards Sand Lake Way on the Lick Creek side is 652. 652 goes a pretty good distance
It does.
there.
These are some needed projects.
Yeah.
But this is money left over from projects that has already been done that needs to be reappropriated back in the funds and shipped back out, right?
These are closed projects that are completed. This is money's left over.
The surplus money.
Okay.
So Ron, you want to rephrase your motion or redo? Did you make a motion? I'm sorry.
I did.
And I second it.
Yeah, and Peggy seconded
Okay.
it.
All those in favor of adopting this resolution, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye also. Item 15 in your packet, quitclaim deed from Clinchfield Coal to the Dixie County Board of Supervisors. I guess this is the Clinchfield Rescue Squad property.
It is, and Mr. Phillips can add to whatever here. Back when we first started looking at the 202 projects with the Corps of Engineers, the first thing we wanted to do was go through public buildings, but when we came to this one, we found out that the ownership still rested with the old Clinchfield. So through some contacts that Freddie Mullins and Mr. Phillips have made, they were very agreeable to transfer this property over to the county, and we have actually already contacted the Corps of Engineers. Yeah. So the ultimate goal with this quitclaim deed is to be able to put the property in the county's name, so it now qualifies for 202 floodproofing. So we will be able to get that, and they are actually to come down here in a few weeks for a meeting, and we're going to discuss this property.
Their building's cracked pretty severely.
Well, it is one, and again, you know, ownerships of some of these old buildings are strange. This is one that was still with the old Clinchfield Coal Company, but they are very agreeable to turn that over to the county, and I believe it was is this $1 deal? I can't remember.
First page on the bottom.
Okay, yeah, for $1. So unless Mr. Phillips has something to add, I just ask that you approve this.
Mr. Chairman, basically, this squad building was built on property owned by Clinchfield Coal Company probably at least 60 years ago, maybe 70 years ago, where Clinchfield agreed to allow this building to be built on their property. And it went on and on and on, and North Clinchville has gone through a lot of changes over the years. A lot of property has been sold. This is one of the properties that they retained and still had. And they wanted to go ahead and to donate to the county for the rescue squad and the fire department, if that's what they wish to have down there, to be located on that property. So it's probably good at this point in time that this deed came along, because who knows where the property would end up in the future. I'm sure they're trying to liquidate all of the real estate that they have in the county to someone else. And so it could have been sold to somebody else, potentially. And the only way you could stop it from being sold would be this deed.
Any motions to?
Is this for the rescue squad building his name?
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Is that active?
I make a motion that we accept this book ID.
Here, second.
I'll second.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye also. Move on to item 16, similar type situation, I think. Not really, but it's the lease. I don't even know where Bethel Baptist, where's Bethel
Well, it's
Baptist?
up on the hill though, right?
Yeah.
You
go up
I make a
and-
motion that we go ahead.
As you start at Mill Creek,
What's the
John.
deal?
Sorry.
As you start at Mill Creek.
We on that list?
Oh, okay, yes.
Yeah.
Which,
Well, that's a good point.
It's at Bethel.
Why not give it to it? I said
Zion
church
Bethel
hurt.
Baptist Church.
Same thing with Flemingtown Church.
I don't understand why you have to do this every year. Why not give it to them?
But we could, that's something we do next year, because we talked about that with
Yeah,
Flemingtown
is
too.
this the same deal as like Flemington?
Yeah,
I'm not sure I've met with Flemingtown.
Flemingtown Police Department.
We don't have that before, so my suggestion is to approve the lease and then let's work
Yeah,
on the
okay,
pages next
hopefully
year.
next year we get this stuff.
Yeah, I believe, Ms. Willis, you were making a motion.
I make a motion that we, renew our lease with AME Zion Bethel Baptist Church.
Here, a second.
I'll second that.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Item 17, other business. I know we discussed this a little bit with Mr. Childress's comments and Mr. Kendrick and then, of course, David. The only item was,
The committee.
yeah, and I'll take the lead on this. I know Ron, just my thought, and it's no other reason than expediency, but I thought about creating a committee
I'm
to
fine.
sort of study it and then bring back some information to the board. I'm not sure if it's that expedient for all of our members to be involved in it.
No, I understand, but I think because of my familiarity with authority, I could.
Well, I would
I got
suggest
some ideas.
that the committee be formed. Go ahead.
Well, of course, we talked about the treasurer, the commissioner.
Right, and I've not been able to reach out to them
Mr.
yet.
Phillips and me. The only reason I would add, I would only ask, it might be helpful if either Ms. Willis or Mr. Peters serve, because we have we've traveled this road before,
Yeah.
ran into some hiccups and roadblocks, but it's far too important for us.
Well, one of the things I
to
want to
take
revisit
pass
is there's
on.
other things we could do with the electric bill too.
Well, I think what we should do is let the committee do a lot of the digging,
Legwork.
preliminary work, and then bring it back to the whole
And that's
board
what I
as
had
a
in mind.
workshop and deal with it at that, because, I mean, everybody's gonna want input on this.
You have any thoughts on that,
We
Ms.
need to
Willis?
collect for garbage.
What I'd requested, this is my idea I presented to David, is that I would like to form a committee of probably myself, maybe Ron or you, whichever one. It sounds like Ron would like to serve on it. Of course, if you want to.
You don't want me.
Well, maybe not. Ron, probably not.
We just didn't get the chance to have a good.
That's probably true,
workshop.
Shelby, so forget I said that. But me and Ron and David and Mr. Phillips and maybe
We didn't get to
Miss
have the workshops we had.
Rakes or a representative from her office, Mr. Yates or a representative from his office to figure a plan out for possible consideration for this board to do a solid waste fund. So I'm going to create that committee if it's okay with the board. I'm going to be me and Mr. Peters, Mr. Moore, Mr. Phillips, and we're going to reach out to Mike and Angie to see if they or somebody from their office.
You need me to make the motion or?
I don't think, do I need a motion for that, or can I just create the committee as
He has right to create it, Mr. Chairman.
as the chairman? So that's what I.
Okay, good.
But, and then hopefully we'll get to work and be able to bring something back to the board to consider. So, is there any other business,
I didn't have anything else.
Okay. We'll move on to item 18, appointments and suggestions and recommendations for boards. The first is 18A, the Coal Road and Gas Improvement Advisory Committee. I would like to submit the name of Jeff Newberry for consideration for this appointment to this committee. I don't know if we have a second to that name.
I second, Jeff.
Is there any discussion on Mr. Newberry's name?
To kind of summarize the process, this board does not get to hand select
Correct.
the
No,
appointee.
So we gotta pick up three?
The court does, but what this board does do is we will submit a letter which should have
Three names.
We thought 3 names of recommendation for consideration by the court. Your packet includes a letter from Mr. Harry Childress, who has expressed interest in that. And each of you have the ability to bring name or names to the process, but by the time you complete this process this evening, you should have a list of only 3 names that we will put in a letter to submit to the court. That's our diligence. That's our due diligence part.
I've submitted Mr.
I'll make a
Newberry's
motion
name.
for Harry Childress as well.
Wait just a second, you got a motion for
We done said
Jeff?
Well,
What we're going to do is,
Take
it's
the
okay
nomination.
with the board, and I think this is what we discussed, is we'll submit a name, get a second, vote on that name until we get 3 names. I've submitted Mr. Newberry's name, you second it, so we'll take a vote. I don't think there's any need for a roll call vote, but all those in favor of Mr. Newberry's name being submitted, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye also. And then, okay, Ms. Sluss, you want to make a
I want to
motion?
submit Harry Childress's name.
Is there a second? Hearing no second, the motion will fail.
I would like to recommend A.C. Blevins. It has to be someone involved in the coal industry for this position.
I'll second it.
Mr. Peters, second. All those,
Talk to him, he's very interested in serving.
all those in favor of Mr. A.C. Blevins' name being submitted for consideration to serve on the Coal Roads Committee, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye also. Then I would like to submit Mr. Elder Stanley's name for consideration for the court to consider.
I'll second it.
Any discussion on Mr. Elder Stanley's being submitted to the court for consideration? All those in favor of Mr. Stanley, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye as well.
May I ask which name you're putting first?
I assume it'd be in the order that they were adopted.
Make a difference? Yes, it does.
If you would like
It
to,
does.
is that, if you want to tell us how you would like them listed, that's how we'll list them.
Yeah, I don't have a problem either way.
I don't either.
If I were writing the letter, if the order they were done would be the order I would have left them. But I can do it any way you'd like. It doesn't matter.
Normally he chooses.
The judge is gonna evaluate who he sees.
I'll leave this to the pleasure of the board.
New judge.
Wait till you get, so I don't know, but they'll.
Is that right, Judge?
You have a new judge.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't even put you
I don't
up.
know.
You have a new judge, and I don't know what his
I don't
privilege
even,
Like
will
for,
be.
if it's the pleasure of the board, I'd like AC to be listed first. He works every day in the coal industry. So he definitely qualifies. He works every day in the coal industry.
Well, if you're wanting to talk about qualifications, Jeff Newberry is not only been a coal operator, worked in the coal industry, he's also an engineer.
I think the county would be very blessed with either one of those gentlemen, or any of the three of them.
Yeah.
It's that, but I'm not gonna argue over who's gonna be first or second, when I don't even know how the judge feels about that.
yeah.
David.
List them as.
We
they
list
work.
every division first.
So, just so there's no surprises, they'll be listed Jeff Newberry, A.C. Blevins, and Elder Stanley. Is that okay?
That's fine.
Item 18B, Appalachian Agency for Senior Citizens.
I make a motion that we let Delano serve on that again because he enjoys it, he does a good job, and he's always there.
I agree with that, and
Yeah, I second it.
and I'll say the same argument for Mr. Hughes.
I'm good
Is
with
both
that.
of them, both of them
Yes.
attend regularly.
So keep them the same? Is that your motion, Shelby?
Would you want to do both of them, Ms. Wills? Yes, ma'am.
I'll second it.
Mr. Phillips, you suggested, I think it's clean to do them both at the same time. So Ms. Willis has a motion to reappoint Delano Sykes and Marshall Hughes to the Appalachian Agency for Senior Citizens.
I second it.
Mr. Peters, second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye also.
Both of them do a good job. All of them.
Spearhead Trail. Currently, Larry Yates is appointed to that position.
Is that the mayor?
Yes,
I think Larry does a pretty good job.
he does, but he's okay if it rolls to someone else. He'll stay on it too. You know, as a suggestion, I would say, from Hillcom, Kenny Hill.
That's fine with me.
He's pretty active in the trail riding and stuff. He might be a good at.
Because Larry's sort of overextended, he don't want to be.
I think
Larry
so.
does a pretty good job with it.
And he asked me to.
Find somebody in.
Yeah, he said he'd be okay if we found
So
someone.
you made a
else.
motion for Kenny?
Yes.
I'll second that. All those in favor of Kenny Hill being appointed to the Spearhead Trails Authority, please signify by saying aye. Aye also.
Aye as well.
Cumberland Plateau Citizen Appointments.
I would like to make a motion to do all four of those. They are there every time we have a full board meeting. All four of those attend regularly.
Do I hear a second to that?
Oh, wait a minute.
Go ahead.
Wait a minute.
Yes, ma'am.
This is Richard Jones you're talking about?
Richard lives over.
Is he the one that had lower twin down there? Lester Hill, is that the guy that works for AEP?
Yeah.
Yes.
Larry Yates, which, the
The
mayor,
mayor's on it.
Bradley Robinson, is that the guy from Pam? Married to Laura Faye?
Yes.
Well, I'd like to see some new blood on this myself.
Well, if we have you've made her motion, I believe. Did you complete your motion?
I
Ms.
did, I
Willis?
made a motion to choose all four of those, Richard Barnes, Lester Hill, Larry Yates, and Bradley.
Well, what we'll do, Rhonda, is I'll open it for a second and we'll have discussion. I mean, do you have any,
Well, I think I would like to see, perhaps Jeff Newberry put on this, or,
I'll be honest with you, I've not talked with anybody about this board.
I haven't talked with him
Did
about.
anybody say?
The one I think, cause he's a mayor, I would like to keep Larry
Okay,
Yates
I
out
have no
there.
problem, Larry, I think he'd be
Yeah.
good. I just like, I would like
And
to
Lester's
see.
good, cause he's helpful broadband.
Yeah.
The 8 people.
Yeah, Lester's very
A
good.
lot of the efforts that go on that board are more, I mean, seem to be down at our end of the county. mean,
Jeff
or-
Jeff Newberry.
But I don't have a problem.
Well, let's,
But we gotta finish the motion.
yeah, let's let,
Okay.
we have a motion. No, I'm gonna call for it right now. Ms. Willis has made a motion for the 4 incumbent members. Do I hear a second to that motion?
I'll second, but I want a caveat, that way we still gotta vote, and then now's when you should discuss.
I'm not, well,
But-
correct. I agree with
The
that.
motion is on the table, and it's an amendable motion. The motion can be amended at any time right now.
Yeah,
Prior
okay.
to voting. So you
Okay.
have discussion, and if you wish to, someone wish to offer a motion to amend her, motion, you can do so. If it's
Follow me,
second-
Ron.
Now, Rodney,
Well,
you,
I would like an amendment that I would like to replace Bradley Robinson with Jeff Newberry,
okay,
subject to Jeff's, I assume he will take it, but Jeff Newberry.
Yeah, that's sort of what I'm wondering, if he'll have time to.
Well, he agreed on the other one,
which one do you want him to replace?
Bradley Robinson.
Okay,
These people only go once every 2 minutes.
I would say that's
All
a
right.
good move, cause I think Brad has a hard time getting there sometimes.
So we have a amended motion to Ms. Willis's motion that would include 3 incumbents, Richard
Well,
Mullin.
wouldn't I be the one who would have to?
Yes.
Well, that's,
I would.
They can be amended by any member.
Is there any other input since we're in discussion?
We talk about.
What?
I was thinking there was someone else that we had mentioned.
Okay, thank you very much.
You all have one motion on the floor at a time.
Okay, all right, I'm gonna keep.
I'm trying to let everybody, I don't want to, you know what I mean?
No, I thought we were working on amending it.
We did,
This is
and
sort of hard to do when you just throw it at you. You don't get to talk to your peers.
Well, you have, by the time we get the school package to do it.
But Norton didn't get it till, Monday, cause they was closed Friday.
I thought like Thursday.
All right, so just to take over here, we have an amended motion that would include Mr. Newberry in place of Bradley Robinson. Is there a second to that amended motion?
I'll second it.
All right, so the motion is that we appoint Richard Mullins, Lester Hill, Larry Yates, and Mr. Jeff Newberry to this Citizen Cumberland Planning District Commission. All those in favor of that, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye as well. Ms. Willis? No, 4-1.
I have nothing against Jeff, but I think you need to ask him before you ever appoint him.
I don't have a problem at all with your position on that. Southwest Virginia Community Corrections Board.
I'd like to make a motion, we keep Gary Hall on that.
I second it.
All those in favor of keeping Mr. Hall on this board, please signify by saying aye. Aye also. Virginia Coalfield Economic Development Authority, I would make a motion that we appoint Rhonda Sluss to this board.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion?
Did he make it?
Yeah.
Okay.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Also.
And I'm going home as soon as this board meeting is over and read 944 pages of this. We have a meeting the 30th.
Okay.
What do you want to do with me? No, because you're not there for sure. Oh, that's right.
Thank you, Miss Shelby. I don't know what I do without Shelby.
We were talking and he reached out.
All right, we're going to go to item 18G, appointments to the Industrial Development Authority. I believe, David, you can correct me, I believe there's a Willis appointment, a Sam Leak appointment, and an at-large appointment. Is that correct?
No, Shane is the
Shane's at-large.
Shane
lives in my
Alpinton
district.
is my Irvington
Yeah.
person.
That was correct.
Oh, that's correct. So for the Willis
No, he
district,
was David Yates.
There's two at large.
The other one's there
Eric.
for
Eric is the other.
next month.
At large. Eric Shane's at large.
I'm gonna make a motion that we appoint Shane Gilman back.
all right, we can do that one first.
Yeah, I'll second it.
All those in favor of Mr. Hillman serving as the at-large appointee, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye also. Ron, do you want to go ahead? We'll just go from the bottom up.
Okay, I make a motion, we reappoint Larry Yates.
Here a second.
I second it.
All those in favor of reappointing Mr. Yates to the IDA, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Also. I make a motion that we appoint as the Willis District Representative on the IDA, Mr. Donnie Stanley.
Which Donnie is
Donnie Stanley, that
One sitting
part of
on-
the Glenwood Funeral Home.
Donnie,
I'll second it.
All those in favor of appointing Mr. Stanley to the IDA,
Your appointment.
please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye also.
Here we go.
We'll go to, so we didn't need 19, right, Ms. Willis?
That's correct, Mr. Chairman. That's correct.
And we'll move to item 20, adoption of the budget. Yeah, we're going to item 20, yes ma'am.
Yeah,
I'm not,
yeah, you do it.
Mr. Chairman, the budget is in front of the full board and is open to discussion and amendments and/or approval, whatever the pleasure of the board is.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to, I know, Mr. Phillips has said there's money available they could spend, but I'm hoping they use that money for the school. And also, you've made the statement about the insurance. But I think that we did short the school a little bit this year, and Ron and I come to agreement, I wanted 200,000, she wanted 100. We kind of compromised, and I would like to ask and make a motion that we appropriate another 150,000 to the school system to help keep the aides that they are desperately needing, because those aides are the ones that substitute teachers also. And the money, I would hope the money would be used so that the teachers do not, and the personnel do not have to pay additional insurance payments for that. So that's my motion.
I will second it in good faith. We cannot tell the Board of Supervisors what to do with any extra money. But in myself, I'm doing this in my good faith that they will do what Shelby has mentioned. You know,
I mean, we can't tell them.
We cannot tell them. I understand that very much, but in good faith, I hope they will, if they allow that money, that they will use it for aides and for to help the teachers. So I will second that motion.
As part of the discussion, I'm gonna ask Mr. Moore if he feels comfortable in adding $100,000 item to our budget.
Well,
150,000.
Last month, that it be taken out of our surplus funds, so I'm still asking that it come out of surplus funds.
I'd say in terms of adding anything tonight, you have to also give me the counterbalance of where it's going to come from. So you had last month, or at the public hearing, stated you would like to see us use the general fund surplus, which is.
If we're gonna go forward with this, David, I'm gonna ask that you find another $500,000 to $700,000 so we can give the same kind of insurance and retirement funds to our part-time
So is that a motion?
You can't, Mr. Chairman.
He's making an
I
amended
can't make a
motion.
motion.
He's making a substitute motion.
Substitute motion, which I'll second.
And then we'd have to vote on the substitute motion.
So go ahead and repeat your motion, Ron.
Well, I'm just thinking, why would we approve to give them more money, do something for them that we don't do for our own employees? So if we're gonna do this, we know that there's part-time employees that are part of the Virginia retirement system, and they also get health care insurance. We know that we're buying a retiree health care plan. Why would I do something for the school employees that we don't do for our own? I just don't see how that's ethically right.
And how our sheriff.
Wait a minute, I understand your point and what you're saying, but this is part of this is part of the package deal where you try to attract the best teachers, and I understand. I didn't have that. No, I don't know of anybody that gets that. But that is part of the package deal, trying to attract the best teachers into this county, and I think we have the best teachers in this county. And I don't think it's gonna break the bank, as Shelby said, for us to come up with another $150,000, and in good faith, hope they will use it to, aids and, help the teachers.
So your position is you would rather offer that to
I think
retired teachers rather than
No,
members of our
I
sheriff's
think-
office? Because that's the position you're taking, or our trash truck workers, or our regional jail employees, or our prison guards, or anybody else in the country that doesn't have that.
In a sense, you're declaring apples and oranges.
So
I did this incentive at one time, and it may be out of hand now, but at one time, they had an incentive for the older teachers to retire, hire newer teachers in at a lesser rate of salary than the older teachers. And at one time, I guess they saved money by doing that.
I want to refresh some memory. When we first sat down for the department meeting, we spent a lot of time going over the salaries on the Hill, where they're above the prevailing salary, but you go down where it matters with the children, assistant principals are under the prevailing salary, and I'm trying to understand what we're doing here. And I think in one point, you guys said Title VI money covered one of the people on the Hill. And then I called the state and they told me Title VI money doesn't even exist. It hasn't for a couple of years. And it really doesn't cover a person on the Hill. They moved it to Title V, and it's $30-something thousand to cover the benefits for your classroom reduction. Key here is title money for the most part. There is an exception that I know of, is where it touches the children. So we went through all that rigmarole. I guess, we trimmed, before we even started, he trimmed from 28 million to 26 million, and I don't understand why we keep making a county take the shortchange the county. We do that because we understand the importance, but we've been doing that for years. The fact of the matter is, the state's not cutting you. That little 3-letter word really is a 9-character thing with a space. It's called downside. As you drop in students, the funding from the state decreases. And as I said earlier tonight, you really got increased 1.2 million above what you got last year, according to what you passed out to us at that meeting. And then I remember identifying a specific position that I want to call, I'm going to use a military acronym, SMP. The military called it the Exceptional Family Member Program. Now, it was a pretty good program. It was designed where if a military person had a child that needed special medical or education need, they would allow them to go to a base and live there where those facilities were available. I think you have the same thing, and I identified that during the meeting when you hired a position last year, which I know you subsequently did away with. But it was clearly you hired that position and it wasn't needed. It wasn't required. I don't understand. So I think 5.9 is more than fair. It's above what at least 3 of the counties in our region. I didn't check them all. You guys have got to, the school board's got to make some hard cuts.
David, I'd like to hear from you, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
Well, of course, we struggled to balance this budget, and at the public hearing, I presented you a sheet of all of the things we absorbed as increases, but that really, they weren't discretionary. They weren't discretionary increases. They were things that are handed to you by the state. A lot's been made of the social services component of our budget. What you have to understand is that is not discretionary. What you see there is actually the social services total budget. Their revenue side, their expense side is all included in our general fund budget. That is the budget as prepared by the state, given to us. All we look at is the component that what the difference between the revenues and the expenditures, because the locality, being us, we spend about $1.4 million of local money on social services. 7.1 million is the entirety of the social services expense budget. It just happens to be part of the county's general fund presentation. I'm not going to go back over the whole list of $1 million increase, because we've covered this ad nauseum, and what I expressed to you is, we actually added back revenue above our expectations just to balance this budget. Your expected revenue this year is only $24.9 million. We are preparing to pass a budget with no amendments of close to 25.4, meaning that there's roughly about $500,000 here that I would say is stretched in some way, shape, or form, because we do a lot of prep work with the state. We also work very closely with our agencies and with the industry folks to prepare, because you have to, first, it's like your home budget. You have to know what you have before you can realize what you can spend. And Mr. Peters, to your point, yes, we always discuss the school division last, because we go through all the other departments and agencies and work with them, and we tighten up everything, because we know when you come to this that it's always been a stretch for us to be able to provide the level of funding that we have. And as far as Southwest Virginia goes, given our economy, it's kind of amazing what we've been able to pull off. And the school division has always been a great partner of ours. There are differences between how they operate and how we operate. And Mr. Evans, to your point, you're correct. We have no control over their policies and how they do things, but as far as the county goes, you're right. We don't provide anything in the way of retiree benefits. We don't provide any benefits to any of our part-time employees. And it's not that we haven't been approached over the 10 years to do that. We've been approached numerous times to start a package, but we just can't afford it. It's just not doable. And my philosophy as the leader and the financial leader is I would much rather take care of my current employee base and do our best to try to retain as many of those folks as they can, because it is very hard to recruit here. You cannot, the pool of employees is very small, and a lot of turnover it makes it impossible for us to have any continuity. All that said, we've already stretched a $24.9 million expected base to 25, almost 0.4. Adding another $150,000, I've heard you say that you would like to use the general fund reserve. We just in the last several years have gotten our general fund reserve balance to where it is even minimally acceptable to the state. They typically like to see 20% of your general fund revenue base, which our revenue base is roughly $25 million. So by math, 20% is $5 million. That's not considered to be a rainy day fund. That's just a general minimum base reserve for situations like 2016. Ms. Willis, Mr. Peters were here in 2016 when our coal industry went through a very difficult time. And if it hadn't been for the reserve we had, we could have been bankrupt. And we only pulled in, I think, $22 million in revenue that year. And that just shows how tenuous this is. Yes, we have a reserve, but if we don't take care of it, it's not. Where are we going to be if we have another situation just like 16? I've told you that we're very dependent at this point. Gas severance has no dependency at all. 65% of our coal severance comes from Deep Mine 41. What happens if there's a closure or something happens there and they have to scale back or close? That would be very catastrophic financially to our revenue base. You guys have shown a willingness to look at alternatives, the wet solid waste collection. That's great, but when you look at all those things probably only will generate somewhere in the neighborhood of 300,000. If you're lucky.
We still got to get to where we're sustainable.
There's just a long way to go. We are in the midst. FY20 probably, as I told you earlier, probably will be roughly $1.5 to $2 million under, meaning that we're going to expend more they're going to take in. That will erode away probably close to 30 to 40% of that minimal general fund reserve base I talked about. $5 million is going to become closer to 3 or somewhere in that neighborhood. So again, I can't stand here and say we don't have it. Do we have the money? We have the money, but it comes down to the point of when you've already stretched an expected revenue base as much as we have. Putting another $150 or $200 or $500,000 against it is just, if you're in my position, I can't advise that. But if you tell me that's how you'd like to approach it, we'll make it work. But where are you going to be this time next year? Next year, does $3 million become $1 million? And the reason that I feel the way I do is because when I started, that number was negative almost $6 million. And the money that was in the bank was basically coal road money that was floating what the general fund did not have. And we have spent the majority of the last decade just trying to build some financial respectability here. So, use of any of the reserve is, if it's a one-time thing, that's fine. But we do this every year. That's become the problem. I mean, every year we've come back with our back to the wall, and I guess my question just would be, when are we going to start trying to start playing without our back to the wall?
Well, I agree with everything you said, but, like I told Mrs. Robinson, I think there is going to be a decrease down the line. And they're gonna have to learn, the school board and everything's gonna have to learn, they're not gonna get as much money as they have in the past and not be funded 200% or 180% before what they got. But, I think one person told me, says, what are you going to tell people when you want them to come to Dickinson County? We want to tell them we got a Class A school system, and we have. And I think that this is not, $150,000 is not gonna break the bank. We're gonna survive. My dad always had a saying, put more water in the soup, better times coming. Well, better times is coming. I don't mean to take this lightly. I value education, and I want people to come to this county and say that this county and this board supports, and we have supported the people in the post staff, but I want them to come and say, we're 100% behind the support of education in this county.
Senator, if I could reset the issue where we are.
Procedurally, yes.
Procedurally, Mr. Chairman, you have a motion from Mr. Peters and for you, and that needs to be voted on first. And if that motion fails, then it falls to the motion made by Ms. Willis for a vote. That's procedurally how that will go. And so you, Chairman, has to decide.
And his motion was to give insurance to part-time people.
Contingent, I was being contingent on whether, if we're gonna get more money, then let's do it for ours.
If I might, Mr. Chairman, his motion is to amend the budget to additional $750,000. That's what we're debating right now.
Yeah.
Not the latter one, not Ms.
No, I know, I
So
understand.
does Mr. Peters have to have a second on his motion?
He did get a second from the chairman.
Oh, he did, okay.
Well,
You got two motions on the floor, I don't
No.
understand.
well, I'm the only one to go.
If I can explain it, parliamentary, from a parliamentary perspective, what you have is an original motion.
Hey, I'm gonna rescind my motion, because I'm seriously, what I was trying to do is make a point. Why would we ethically give the school something that we don't do for our own employees?
So if you wanted to do that,
I'll rescind it.
there has to be a motion to withdraw and vote to allow you to do that.
Do you make a motion to rescind? I'll second
make
your
a motion
motion
to
to rescind.
rescind.
All those in favor of Mr. Peters rescinding his motion, please signify by saying aye. Aye also. I'm the only one that's not.
Mr. Chairman.
I sort of took over there a moment ago and went on a tangent, but I'm passionate about that. Nobody has benefited more from public education than me. My career wouldn't be what it is. My family, my livelihood wouldn't be what it is if not for public schools and teachers here in Dickinson County, teachers at Mountain Empire Community College, UVA-Wise, and Appalachian School of Law. So I wouldn't be where I am but for public education. I ran not for just the teachers or aides or to make the school board's job easier, but I ran for all citizens of Dickinson County, not just teachers' aides, not just teachers whom I value very much and owe my livelihood to, a good portion of it. But I ran for the families of Dickinson County and most importantly, the taxpayers of Dickinson County. And to be a responsible, good steward of the working person's dollar of Dickinson County. And to go against the advice of our county administrator who says our budget is already overexpended by $500,000. Last year, the Dickinson County School Board received the highest appropriation in history at $7 million, coupled with a tax increase upon the backs of the working people of Dickinson County. And their own policy manual says that they're offering an incentive that is unheard of in the United States of America to 22 people for insurance coverage for 7 years at a cost to this board and the taxpayers, the working person, the coal truck driver, the coal miner, the deputy, the clerk, the lawyer, the county administrator, the technology guy, the guy who digs water line ditches, the guy who runs a backhoe, the guy who weed eats for a living, all on their backs. And I run for those people, not just the teachers and the school board employees. And for them to have in their own policy that they offer this incentive to 22 people who don't go into the classroom and help disabled children, who don't go and serve meals to children, who don't teach children math, history, economics. They don't do any of those things. $500,000 for 22 people, an incentive that is not offered again by any corporation in the country. And then to come and blame us and threaten to close elementary schools, say that we're responsible for teachers' increases health insurance, that we're responsible for children to not have AIDS in the classroom, that's false. It says if the Dickinson County Board of Supervisors doesn't appropriate enough money, that policy could end. And we've never heard one offer from them to end a $500,000 gut punch to the taxpayers. All we've heard is, we're going to close Irvington and it's your fault. We're going to raise the teacher's insurance and it's your fault. And then on top of it, just to add icing to the cake, in a $250,000 lawsuit on, guess who? The backs of the deputies, the truck drivers, the coal miners, the ditch diggers, the working business people of Dickinson County who pay the taxes, all on their backs. So I respectfully will vote no on your additional $150,000 appropriation. Just like we can draw, let's let David magically come up with $150,000. You know, the taxpayers' money, who cares? We'll get it. Maybe we'll haul another load of coal. You know, talked about guys like A.C. Blevins, guys that's worked 70 hours a day or a week by underneath the coal truck. Let's make them pay more taxes. We'll raise more taxes. Just keep giving it away. I can't do it. Not when there's $500,000 being given to non-instructional people, non-working people.
You just formed a committee to consider raising taxes.
It's not a tax, it's a fee for service.
Well, fee for service, it's a tax.
Mr. Chairman, the motion that's in front of you.
So we have a motion, yes, sir. Have a motion by Ms. Willis to increase the budget by an additional $150,000 with a line item appropriation to the school board to be taken from the general fund balance. Is that correct?
That's correct, Mr. Chairman.
And you, Ms. Sluss, seconded that motion. And I'll have a roll call vote on that motion. Ms. Willis, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Sluss, how do you vote? I vote no. Ms. Kaiser, how do you vote?
No.
Mr. Peters, how do you
No.
vote? No. Motion fails. Do we hear any other motions on the budget?
I have one, and I don't know if this is the right time, but it's not on the budget. In preparation for next time, I think this board should entertain doing a FOIA request and get together a workshop and look at everything, because I'm tired of this playing this game. We need to look at the data.
Yeah, we're probably in inappropriate motions this time.
Correct.
Okay, I just want.
Do we have any other motions in regard to adoption of the budget for 2021?
Mr. Chairman, could we do each one individually?
I'm sorry.
The general and the coal road and the 911, can we do those individually?
I don't see why not. I don't know.
We did the general.
Well, we don't have a motion on it.
That requires a motion to adopt whatever you.
I'll make a motion to approve the general fund as published.
You may do that.
Here, and I'll second that motion. Ask for a roll call vote again. Ms. Willis, how do you vote?
No.
Ms. Sluss?
No.
I vote yes. Mr. Peters?
Yes.
Ms. Kaiser?
Yes.
So the budget has been advertised, has been adopted by the board by a vote of 3-2. Move on to item 21, adoption of the Board of Supervisors salary ordinance.
No, you have to do the coal.
Do the other.
road.
No, you gotta
Okay,
do
we're doing them
yeah,
individually.
yeah,
I apologize. So that was the general
Yeah.
county thing. I apologize about that. I'm
I
sorry.
was confused.
20, I was 2. Coal Road and Gas Improvement Fund budget.
I'll make a motion that we approve that one.
A second.
I second it.
Ask for a roll call vote. Ms. Willis, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Sluss?
Aye.
Aye. Also, Mr. Peters?
Aye.
Ms. Kaiser?
Aye.
2021 Enhanced E911 Fund. Hear a
I'll make a
motion.
motion that we approve that one.
Hear a second.
Second.
Yeah, all those in favor of approving the enhanced E911 fund budget, please signify by saying aye. Aye also. Now I'm sorry about that premature move there. Item 21 now.
I make a motion, we adopt the salary ordinance as published. There was
Is
no
there any
change.
discussion on that? That's the same as it has been, right?
Yeah.
There's
Yes,
no increase.
no increase, no change.
Yeah, it's the same.
All those in favor of adopting the supervisor's salary orders, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye as well.
Mr. Chairman, make sure I understand, the school board's budget was included in which of those?
General fund.
The general fund
It was
as
included.
advertised.
As advertised.
Correct.
And it passed?
Correct.
Roll call vote?
3-2 vote.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought. We're going to item 22, reversion of funds. David?
Year-end house cleaning, we need a motion and a second. Basically, we have multiple funds. Most of those they continue forward, but there are a small number of those that we, at the end of each fiscal year, any balance in them reverts back to the general fund. That's the school operation fund, the comprehensive services fund, and comprehensive services fund, ADM. Those last two are DSS funds. This is just annual house cleaning for us. I have to have a motion to approve this.
How much, do we know how much that is?
We won't know until in July, but we will give you the update of that once the fiscal year closes.
I make a motion that would give you the authority to do the revision of the fiscal year balance.
Your second.
I'll second.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Also,
Aye, well.
23.
I'll make a motion, we approve the expenditures through June 30th, 2020.
As I said, we'll probably do one or two more check runs just to clean up all the corners. We have to go through all.
I'll get that squared away tomorrow.
Yep. So if you have anything that you need done, and then you got until next Monday to get it done, because we'll finish up everything on probably Monday afternoon.
Well, let me ask you a question. Is it legal to go ahead and buy a drain pipe, and if you have some funds left over and you want to fix a problem and you want to take let's say $1,000 and buy some drain pipe to?
You mean if you still have it in this year's budget?
Yeah.
Yeah, we have projects that do go over multiple years.
I could buy the drain pipe and put it at the site, and then hopefully if I get more money, I'm gonna buy more drain pipe. Is that legal? Is that legal?
We need to ask, because I was curious on that too.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
Yeah, we do a lot of summertime projects where
Well, we've done them in the past, but I was
money,
unsure, that's why I spent my
Yeah,
money.
we have money from 2 fiscal years in certain projects, so that's fine.
So I believe you had a motion, Ron, to approve the expenditure.
Yeah, I did.
Do I hear any further discussion on that? Or questions? Do I hear a second to Mr. Peak? All those in favor of approving expenditures through June 30th, 2020, please signify by saying aye. Aye also. We'll go to item 27, supervisor comments. Start with Ms. Willis, if it's okay with her. Okay, I'll start with Ms. Sluss.
Well, I don't want, I understand I want to say that, there's some tough decisions have to be made, and, some of them was made quite abruptly, and, I want to say that I had made a commitment that I would do what I did, and I cannot, I'm not saying I'm a perfect person, but I had to keep my commitment. Do I believe what Josh said? Yes. Some of the things he said was very relevant, and I do believe. But at the same time, I have a commitment to make, and I want to do what I think is best for the citizens and the children of this county. And that's all I have to say. And God bless America.
Mr. Peters.
For me?
Yes, sir.
it's a hard time every year at the budget. And I heard some things that really alarm me tonight, and I'm concerned as well. But this board does not decide how the school board spends its money. And you have to take that argument to them. That's up. They have to bear some of the burden on the tough decisions. We have to do it. And it's not simply ask for a blank check every year. We've got to start getting things weaned down to where it's manageable and sustainable for this county. That's all I've got.
Ms. Counselor.
I'm like Ron and Rhonda, and then this has been a hard decision. It wasn't one that I made and stuck my guns to. I have wavered voting for the increase. There is 300 plus employees, full-time employees in the school system. I have gotten emails or phone calls from only 13. 6 of those 13 was only for keeping Irvington open. And at the school board meeting a couple of weeks ago, that had been removed from the table. But yet I have not heard back from those 13 people asking me to support an increase in the budget. I've only had emails or phone conversations or messages sent to me through other people so that they could say, I've not talked to a board member, asking, stay firm, vote your heart. And I have a daughter that teaches. I was in a meeting last week, attended a meeting last week, and a person said, what is the school's budget that the state says you all have to give? And when I told them, they said, that's all I give them. And they have people in school. They have teachers. So I'm not here for my personal thought, my personal belief. I came to work and got out and work and got voted and elected in for my constituents, my citizens of my district. And they want me to stay strong. This is not a personal job for me. I'm not making, as you all have seen in here, while we make a $5,500 a year, which this is 30+ hour a week job, to do this to suit me. I am trying to suit people. School is 300 people when my district is 1,800 people. I wish we could just sit down here when budget come out and every question, everything people wanted, that we could say we can give it. But our taxpayers have to pay it, and we 5 right here are the stewards of this $20-some million that our citizens in this county pay to this county. And we have to be good stewards of that. We have to handle that money. School, I'd say school is right there at the top of the list, but this, I had just come to the conclusion that this is what I might have to do, and I hope the next few months and the next year. And this is a new thing for me, and I just hope things, and the school has got 5 school board members you all need to be addressing your all's comments to work towards their budget and see what they can work with to pass. I'm like Josh and Ron and that we don't make the decision to close the school, to increase anything. Once we say this is the money we got to give, the call lies either on the Hill or to those 5 board members.
Ms. Willis, thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to say I've been here, this is 13 budgets I've done, and I think this has been the most drastic cut for the school system that I've ever seen since I've been here in 13 years. And I can tell you, I've been here and I made tough decisions the first year I was on the board, and Mr. Phillips will tell you I did. The first thing I was asked was, would I take someone's property to put something on it that would benefit the county? And my answer was no, and it wasn't you, as Mr. Bennett. I said, no, if they don't want to sell it, I will never agree to take someone's property. I didn't know what we was doing there. I was ignorant as to what we was going to do. The next thing was, we was going to build a consolidated high school and a middle school. The next thing was, we had to fund enough money to keep the money rolling until we got the core money in. That was a tough decision. And I wouldn't have made it if Mr. Phillips had encouraged me. I ain't having grandchildren. I had grandchildren at the time. I ain't having great-grandchildren, but he told me, he said, the decision you make will affect your children, your grandchildren, and your great-grandchildren. Now I have 3 great-grandchildren that will probably go to school here. I've got grandchildren in school. I've got more coming that's going to be in school. Then, lo and behold, it wasn't no time until I was served well, first of all, we were told we were going to build a new judicial system. Whoa, we just went in there for the school. One of the deputies handed me an injunction at my house that I was under an injunction that I would help build the judicial system. My injunction, and I was the only one left on the board that had the injunction, it was not lifted until we had open house at the new judicial system. That's when my injunction was. Teddy Bailey served with me at that time, and he said, I can tell you, Mr. Banner will not hesitate to throw you in jail if you don't build this judicial system that he's ordered us to build. And I made tough decisions. When I first went to the church I belong to now, I belong to Roseby Free Will Baptist. Eddie Groves was my pastor. He preached a message on straddling the fence. You know, he said if you would straddle the fence, you couldn't get your feet on either side to do what needed to be done. You couldn't be a Christian or you couldn't be a sinner. You just straddling the fence. And, you know, that stuck with me, and that made me help my decision. So when I tell somebody something, my word is my gospel. And I can honestly say that Mr. Evans has been very honest with me. We don't agree on a lot of things, but he's been very honest. I've worked with Ron 5 years, and I've never found a more honest man than Ron Peters is. But we need to not straddle the fence. We need to make decisions. And we need to make that decision. And I keep going back to the email that Mr. Moore sent, that $200,000 would not break the bank. So Rhonda and I agreed tonight we would just compromise. We'll go 150. And it went nowhere. So I've done all I can do. And I really feel for the school system. And I don't want a teacher staying there till he's 65 or she's 65, teaching 20 first graders or pre-Ks or whatever. I mean, I just can't imagine teaching that many children. I had to take a 2-year-old to the doctor the other day and had his sister too, and by the time I got them to the doctor, I told Bruce, I said, Bruce, can you imagine a school teacher being in a classroom with 20 of these children to deal with 20 different personalities, and the 2-year-old has got the best personality you ever saw, except when it took him to the doctor. His personality changed completely. So I could not imagine dealing with 20 personalities. So I admire you that teach school.
Thank you.
And work with the students.
How do we know what the process of the litigation, we didn't have closed session, You said you was meeting tomorrow with.
There's a little small meeting tomorrow. We're talking about litigation tomorrow, yes.
Well, how does that stand so far?
We don't.
Will you let us know?
We will, but the issue, Mr. Chairman, if I might, and I said this with all sincerity and all concern and compassion and love for the citizens of Dickinson County and the school children, the teachers, and the aides, and everyone concerned, plus taxpayers and other folks of this county. And I go back to my point. There is $500,000 of cash waiting to be distributed to the school board tomorrow or the next day if they agree to sign the check, somewhere in that vicinity. The only thing is that they have to also agree to give us our 6.9, and they have to agree to accept the $250 for the mitigation work that they want. We've agreed to that. There's $500,000 unencumbered, unrestricted for their purposes as they wish to spend it. This board won't tell them how to spend it. That board, the Board of Supervisors, must make their determination of how to spend that money. And it's their determination as to whether or not they want to accept that money and to move on. It would be my strong admonition to the board, for the school board, to look long and hard. They have to make that decision. I can and you can. And I would strongly urge that they consider going ahead and doing that so that they have at least $500,000 of cash in their budget in addition to what you have appropriated tonight. And I strongly encourage them to do that. And I say that with all sincerity, without any, as I said, any criticism of anyone on the board or the superintendent. It's just a fact of life. Decisions have to be made. And the decision that the school board is going to be making on this $500,000 will determine the fate of the people that they talked about here tonight, the teachers, the kids, the special ed children, the aides, the insurance for the retired. All those things can be covered if they would accept the terms and conditions of accepting that $500,000. I don't understand why they won't. Maybe they won't do it this time. That's their choice. But I would sincerely, and I think it's reasonable to do it, and I think the taxpayers would think it was reasonable to do it that way, and the citizens of the county would think it would be reasonable to do it that way. But, they have to make decisions. We can't make them for them. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Evans, may I make a statement?
I'm going to acknowledge Ms. Robinson. She stood up 3 or 4 times. Yes, ma'am. Come on, please come up. So we can
I'd
hear
just
you.
rather stand here. Good morning, good evening. Mr. Phillips, thank you for your comments. I have sent the board members an email regarding the QSCAD funds and the construction funds, and the reason that we cannot use those funds for operating funds or balancing the budget. And so I would just ask that you would look at that email and the reasons why. It is core contract money, but please look at it again. If the school board could, they would, but they cannot use the construction funds in the Wells Fargo for operating or balancing the budget. Mr. Chair, thank you for your recognizing.
Mr. Chairman, just one final comment.
Yes, sir.
So
she says that
I have legal opinions as well.
That says they can.
It says they can. And I'm not going to get into that.
I understand.
Yeah, I understand.
But
That's what I thought.
they don't believe they could use it for operations. We believe you could.
It's unencumbered, and they decide what they want to use it for.
Yes, sir. Thank you. I've said a lot. I'm not going to belabor anymore. I just want the citizens of the county to know that nothing in regard to this budget has been made lightly, without a lot of discussion with a lot of smart people that I consider smarter than me, that I seek their advice, seek their opinions, and they're tax-paying citizens of the county. And I've tried to open myself as much as possible to people that have differing opinions than I do. Talked with Mr. Childress on a Sunday as much as I could for a half an hour or so. I tried to be open. He's a constituent of mine, and I owe him my time. And I've tried to make time for people, and I know that he's going to try to sway me in a probably a different way and make me think a different way than I probably do. But that's what I'm not saying I'm patting myself on the back. I do seek different opinions, okay? At the end of the day, I could look at this budget and look at the people that work and pay taxes and listen to the financial advice of the person we pay to do this very thing. I don't know if this board remembers, there was a major debate on our county administrator when we first took office. And all that I heard from Ms. Willis was how good Mr. Moore is with the budget. Come to find out, he is pretty good with the budget. And I am glad we have him. And so if he tells us we're overextended by $500,000 and maybe even more, depending on the gas severance, and our budget is where it should be to be a good steward of the taxpayer dollar and to have a good fiscal base for our budget going forward to do things that we all want to do, like expansion of broadband internet, expansion of tourism, expansion of offerings for our tax-paying citizens and families. We have to make hard decisions. And money's tight, and we're maxed out on this budget. And Peggy said she heard from 13 individuals and employees with the school system. I think I heard from 50.
I heard from numerous ones.
And I tried to, I think, and I could be wrong, but I just was checking my email. I got an email from a teacher about 4:30. She's the only one that I've not responded to. And I've offered to make appointments in my office. I've offered my cell phone number. They can call me, and I've tried to be as open and transparent and blunt as I can be. I personally, as chairman, scheduled a joint meeting with the school board, and I was sincere in that meeting in indicating and extending an olive branch to try to work with them. And it seems as though the more we try, the more we get just punched in the face with being blamed for firing aides or closing schools or taking away, and I've said this 3 or 4 times, but taking away from children with disabilities. That's not what we've done. And to look us in the eye and know that you're spending $500,000 on non-classroom related expenses to benefits from people that aren't working for you, and then blame me for a school closure or blame me for a child with disabilities not having resources, I get upset at that. Who's not going to get mad at that? So, I mean, I feel like we've done a budget that is good for the citizens, it's good for the school system, it's 140% above what the Department of Education says we should fund them. And they have my blessing. I pray that they can, I guess the sky's falling on them, I don't know the way they say, but I pray that they can function, and I'll be here to help them in any other way I can. I know David we've accommodated with our CARES Act money as much as possible, and we'll continue to do that. We still have a significant amount of money there that we'll help them any way we can. I'm thankful for our teachers, I'm thankful for our aides, I'm thankful for our custodians, and I'm thankful for all of them. This is a tough job. I've grown to respect and admire all these people, especially Ms. Kaiser through this. This has been especially difficult on her. And I know that, me and her will start texting about 6:30 every morning. We'll talk and we sort of lean on each other, and I appreciate it. And same with Ron and Shelby. I think our rapport's gotten better, and I appreciate that, but I've done what I thought was best for the working families of Dickinson County. So, if there's nothing else, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Well, we only got public hearings.
Yeah, we've got, okay. David, do you have suggested dates on those?
Yep, we need to schedule 2 public hearings. The first will be for the Dickinson County Behavioral Health Services Performance Contract for 2021. Our next meeting date by calendar will be July 28th, Tuesday, July 28th. So let's schedule this first public hearing for 5:45. I just need a motion to pass that.
I'll make a motion with that.
You do right down there.
I'll second.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye also.
And we have a second public hearing, which is something new that has come down from the state. It's an ability to expand the fee to fund courthouse security. And I would propose we have that public hearing on the same night, Tuesday, July 28th, and this one will be at 5:55.
Your motion.
I'll make a motion to approve that.
Your second.
Second.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye also.
That's that.
Now, any motion to adjourn?
I make a motion to adjourn.
Here, second.
I'll second.
All those in favor of adjourning, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Also, meeting adjourned.